open session.
Yeah, how about you say, Elmer and them.
Okay, good.
How about you say, Elmer and them. You got the same.
Yeah, we're not doing spiritual. Yeah, we're
Right. Got it. Right. Yeah, boy.
Got it. And there was another agenda item.
I call this meeting to order of the Manor Independent School District on
May
May
20th at 6:31 p.m.
Let the record show that there is a quorum present and
6:31
this
p.m.
meeting has been duly called and notices of the meeting have been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We will now do the Pledge of Allegiance. 551.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I swear to flag, pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Let's say yes.
We will now move to recognition. We will now move to recognition. Item A, 2A. Item A, 2A.
Good afternoon. I'm here to bring you some information from the Department of College, Career, and Military Readiness. We have 3 wonderful programs that took place earlier this month, and I wanted to share a little bit of information about those 3 programs. I have a running slideshow with some wonderful pictures to show you, and I'll just kind of go through and share a little bit of information about each of those programs. First, we have the Our Community Salutes program that was brought to us by a few of the members from the Wallace Brothers, the City of Manor, the Chamber of Commerce here in Manor, and the City Police Department, as well as Manor ISD, and it was also catered by Country Boys. We're very excited about this new program that's here in Manor. At this program, we celebrated 8 enlistees who will be joining the armed forces, and we're very excited to make sure that we put a focus in on our military readiness students. Our keynote speaker for that program was Major General Tony Kukalo. We also had words from Mrs. Emily Hill, which is the Vice President of the Manor Senior High School PTA, as well as we had some remarks by Dr. Larry Wallace Jr., the City Councilman from City of Manor. We want to thank them for their sponsorship and for their leadership in working with us on our students to continue on with making sure we put a focus on military readiness. Thank you for that. Making sure we put a focus on military readiness. Thank you for that. Our next program that I wanted to highlight was our Decision Day. It was held on May the 3rd at Manor Senior High School. We celebrated the academic accomplishments of the class of 2019. And there in our pictures, you'll see that we had over 318 seniors that we celebrated for the academic accomplishments, whether they were going off to a college or university, for the academic accomplishments, whether they were going off to a college or university, 2-year or 4-year. And those the work came from Manor Senior High School, Manor New Tech High School, and those Manor Early College Senior High School, Manor New Tech High School. And again, also what you'll see is 45 of our Manor Early College High School students who received their associate's degree from Austin Community College were also celebrated that day. And if you'd like to see more pictures from this event and any video footage from this picture, you can follow the hashtag, which is Manor Decision Day 2019 on our official Twitter account, or you can also go on to our webpage to see more pictures from that event. We want to thank our board members for supporting us. Thank you all for being there that day. It was a nice celebration. We want to thank the parents and the staff also for celebrating. I'd also like to announce that, again, we have over $3 million of scholarships coming in from our seniors from the class of 2019. Our last program in May that we celebrated was our Be Beautiful Girl Empowerment Summit. You can follow the hashtag Girls Who Lead, and we have some of those young ladies here today. So I want them to stand and be recognized. And we have some of those young ladies here today. So I want them to stand and be recognized. And also some of our staff that's here from Shadow Glen, and also some of our staff Shadow Glen Elementary. From Shadow Glen hosted this event for us on Saturday, May the 4th, and we have a nice turnout, celebrating with a lot of our partners. Thankful to Miss Becky Lott. Thank you for our board members. Ms. Celadon was there to celebrate with us. We really appreciate you being there and supporting our young girls. We just had a wonderful time empowering those young ladies, and we're looking forward to having another event next year. We had some great vendors that came out and supported and gave a lot of giveaways to them, and scholarships coming in from all of our partners. Again, this concludes our recognition from our leadership initiative that we're having here in Manor ISD, and we're just very excited to continue on for next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Fannin, I just want to say thank you for all of your hard work that you have done in our district. Seems like you're hosting an event every other day.
Color-coded calendar.
Wow. We see your hard work and we appreciate you.
Awesome.
Yes.
And your team. We will now move to item 2B, elementary, middle school, and high school UIL academic recognition.
Good evening, Vice President Celadon, board members, Dr. Avery. We would like to kind of go run down through the elementary and the middle and the high school results from our recent UIL competition.
So in school competed in the UIL academics competition in March, at DES and ES and pieces CE. I ended up in a CE. I ended up in first place with point.
And in the middle school competition, the middle school students competed against other Central Texas middle schools at Hutto Middle School in February. Manor Middle, Manor New Tech Middle, and Decker Middle won a total of 77 awards in various academic events. And over into the high schools, Manor ISD high school students, they hosted and competed in UAL competition in March at the brand new senior high school with 8 area districts. So we congratulate them on their first competition.
And so if we can all have the UIL staff as well as students stand up. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your...
And thank you, staff and students. It's always important that UIL is a very advocate point of making sure academics is strong across the district. So we appreciate you taking the extra, after-school activities to participate in UIL. It's just another little added bonus to what we do in our district. Advanced Academics, thank you for kind of coordinating it. It's always a good, Lisa, to kind of keep it pushed out there, and from elementary, middle, because I think 3 years ago, we only had pockets of UIL competition across our district, and now we have it, in elementary, middle, and high school. So we appreciate you guys bringing it all together and putting it out there and letting our kids compete with other school districts across the Central Texas area. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, we're not going to do a photo or anything with our students?
Can we possibly get all the UIL, if you're a UIL participant or a staff member, to come here? Let's see if we can get a group picture real quick. So if you don't mind, gathering right in the front here. And all UIL sponsors, teachers, everybody come in. Let's see if we can get a photo for it real quick.
Let's do a photo. We didn't do enough today.
Right here.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. All right. I did good.
Everybody. Front, baby. Front. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Guys. Way to go.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, yes. What was that? All right. There you go. Yes.
I know.
You gotta
Come on in, guys. Come on in, guys. Let's make another row.
Come on, keep moving.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, this is good. Great.
We're too short.
Anna's what?
Here, Dr. Avery, move over.
Can y'all get in a little bit more, guys? Maybe some in the front. Maybe do a panoramic.
Good deal.
All right.
Okay, everybody on three. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3, smile.
Everybody smile.
Everybody look up here.
Everybody smile.
Everybody look up here.
All right, way to go, guys. Way to go. Way to go.
Good job, guys.
Good job. Thank you.
Good job.
Very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good call, man.
This is funny. I didn't want to just come all the way here and not do it.
Oh, no.
We need to do something. Thank
Can
you,
we
Dr.
have
Avery.
the girls?
Can we have
Girl
the-
Empowerment
From
Network
the beautiful
come up
summit
for a
to come
photo?
up front, also take a picture, all the girls who went to the beautiful summit.
Yes.
They can come up front.
If you guys can come up, let's get you a photo with the board as well.
And administration.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't take the picture today.
Watch out, watch out.
No, we're gonna be doing that. We're ready for a photo, look.
Dr. Fanning.
Oh, yeah, you know, you're like,
Dr. Fanning.
Dr. Fannin? Dr. Fannin?
All right. Do you sing to her also, or is it a boy?
It's a boy.
Or you sing to him, right?
Are you singing again?
Very good.
Ladies.
To him, right? Very good.
Dr. Delestri?
She's not, she's
Oh, okay.
she's shy.
I should've worn
on
my
three,
shirt.
guys. 1, 2, 3, smile.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, ladies. Appreciate it.
Oh,
What's his
no,
name?
he's so cute.
Oh my gosh, she's so good.
And he was little.
I know. Wow.
Okay, we will now move to item C, teacher recognition. Okay, we will now.
It's my privilege to recognize our teachers of the month. We're going to ask them when I call your name. We'll recognize you and your principal, and then we have you come, and my esteemed colleagues will be passing out plaques and
Gift card.
gift cards. Yay.
Gift card.
And these are from the teachers of the month for the month of May. And then please stick around because we're going to get a group photo. From Manor New Tech Middle PE Athletics teacher, Miss Ebony Gordley. From Shadow Glen Elementary instructional coach, Mr. Vincent Maynard.
If you would, step around.
From Decker Middle School Business Information Management teacher, Miss Londa Cormier. From Presidential Meadows Elementary librarian, Miss May Cartwright. From Bluebonnet Trail Elementary, all under subject, Miss Jennifer Jackson. Miss Jennifer Jackson also has 8 years of experience. 18, missed the one. 18 years of experience with Manor ISD.
Congratulations.
From Manor Early College High School, College English, Mr. Daniel Wesley. From Blake Manor Elementary, 5th grade math and science teacher, Miss Kristen Thomas.
Early college.
From Manor Middle School, English language arts teacher, Miss Monica Aule.
Congratulations again, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
From Oak Meadows Elementary, second grade, all subjects, Miss Madeline Volton.
Thank you.
From Lagos Elementary, fourth grade math teacher, Miss Amber Jackson.
We got you again. There you go.
From Pioneer Crossing Elementary, AIM teacher, Miss Jennifer Cooper.
Yeah.
From Manor New Tech High School, biology and food science teacher, Mr. Areteo Adebojo.
Oh, you didn't tell me you were
Thank you
Had
for
it.
all you do. Appreciate it.
From Manor Elementary, second grade, all subjects, Miss Gianni Outram. From Manor High School, functional academics, Miss Tricia Meredith. Let's congratulate all our teachers of the month for the month of May.
Thank you very much.
One or the other.
Here or
across the way.
They gotta squeeze in for a second for it.
Okay, I gotta be on the other side of him, because of the way my height's set up. Okay, I gotta be on the
Are we good, everybody? Are we good? Zoe? Yeah. Are we good, everybody? Are we good? Zoe? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all so much.
Great teacher.
We are going to skip item D and move that to June. So we are now on item E, Hometown Heroes.
Yes, so we skipped D, not because we don't absolutely love the PTA, but we want to give everybody enough time to actually make it to the festivities. But our hometown heroes, so many of our board members have been talking, every one of us has just talked about the importance of our amazing community and all of the things that our hometown heroes do for us. These are the people who either have businesses or work within Manor and have been doing it without needing recognition, but we certainly appreciate them. So I'm going to invite Miss Becky Lotta, and she is going to tell us, because you know Miss Becky Lotta knows.
She's going to tell us all about our first hometown hero.
Yes.
She's going to tell us all about our first hometown hero.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for this opportunity. And I met with, or spoke with Ms. Thomas last week, and she suggested that we come up with this hometown hero idea on a monthly basis. And I think it's a great one because we have so many people right here in our community that do so much good. So to be the first is really a privilege. So I can't wait to tell you a little bit more about him. As you all know, there are many people deserving of this recognition, but there's one person who really stands out to be our first. These recognition will allow us to highlight goodness that occurs every day and outstanding commitment every day in the lives of our students, their families, and the district. The first person recommended is Father Alex Montez Vila for his selfless act. Come forward. For his selfless acts of kindness and outstanding commitment to the district and its community. Father Montez Vila has been a constant in supporting the students, adults, and the elderly since he opened his church, St. Mary Magdalene Episcopal, in 2010. Everywhere you go, you can find Father Alex responding to those in need or just wanting to bring great joy to the lives around, to the lives of others. These are just a few of his many contributions. He's mentored for many years and began this year with a student at Manor Elementary School. He participated with and supports the efforts of the district's Faith-Based Alliance to provide outreach to the community. He donates backpacks and supplies every year during the school resource fair. He hosted the Know Your Rights class for the immigrant community. Provided food gardening classes led by the Sustainable Food Center right there at his church. He sponsored Socks of Love under the bridge for the homeless. So he provided those socks along with his church members to the homeless. He partnered with Arquette Homes to host the Nels Angels Prom Closet for MIS students so they could receive beautiful dresses, shoes, jewelry, and more for prom. He supported the efforts of the foster community, a nonprofit in Austin and Manor, to promote the need for more foster parents in our community. He hosted Trunk or Treat, a safe night for families during Halloween at his church. He hosted musical entertainment for Meals on Wheels recipients and visits the elderly in the nursing home. This gentleman is active with Toastmasters, the Chamber of Commerce, the Faith-Based Alliance, and the Manor Community Wellness Alliance. Everywhere you go, you can find both Father Alex and his wife T caring for those around him. And it's just an honor and privilege that we provide this hometown hero recognition to Father Alex Montez. Guys, come on in. Just take a
Well deserved.
Well, I'm not hugging. But it has been a long time. It's been a long time.
We're gonna grab a picture together.
Why don't you bring your wife up?
And your
Yeah,
wife.
your family,
Your
come on.
family.
Come on.
Yeah, come on, y'all come on.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
The daughter.
his wife.
His wife.
His wife.
But the daughter said no.
Yeah,
The daughter
I
said
don't
no.
want to be a picture with me either.
I know, right?
My wife is my better half. Right?
You're very beautiful.
On the count of three. 1, 2, 3.
Very beautiful.
On the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
I'll trust him, he's right here.
There's nobody more deserving than to have our first award. Thank you, Father Alex. More deserving.
Yay.
To have our first award. Thank you. We will now move to public forum.
I have
We will
two.
now move to public forum.
I have two. Okay. I have a disclaimer, and the very first person we will bring up is Mr. Nathaniel Thayer regarding the school calendar. So the next time on the agenda, okay, anyone who wants to speak during public comment must sign in and list the topic they want to discuss. So we already did that. And, I'm sorry, have a different one here. In the interest of fairness and in accordance with board policy, the Board of Trustees will follow these guidelines. Each speaker is allotted no more than 5 minutes. I will inform you when you have 1 minute left. I will also inform you when your time is up so that you may return to your seat. And the board may not discuss or make a decision on any subject that is presented. By making sure that we are doing this, we will ensure that all persons addressing the board will have equal time and attention. You may speak now.
Good evening. So, I'm going to refrain from dress code as my normal topic, and I'm just going to go straight to school calendar. I was a little disappointed with the way the calendar was approved. I've kind of voiced some of the concerns with Dr. Avery. I would like to see in the future, moving forward, a little bit more forethought and reach out to the community a little bit more. One of the biggest pet peeves is that fall break wasn't addressed, and I even know that you, Ms. Thomas, had kind of asked about that last time why it didn't get addressed. I was able to get some information from Mr. Thomas, who did disclose that from the previous survey about fall break after the initial, that 52% of the parents did approve of that. Well, 52% sounds an awful lot like about half your parents. So why is the other half of parents not approving of it? And one of the things that I talked to Dr. Avery about is, there's no fall break camp out there. So a lot of parents have to struggle to figure out how to have kids watch during that time period. So moving forward in future talks about the calendar, I'd like that to be, approached again and see if that's something that needs to continue. The other thing that I also wanted to point out from the presentation that y'all had is that, the option A was the 40% that was approved, to push the school start date up, along with the move the spring break back. What doesn't make sense to me is that means 60% of the parents did not want school to move forward, on its start date. But that's what was pushed forward. So when those numbers come to you, I think there needs to be a little more time to sit down and look at those numbers. Yes, 70% of the parents, they did agree that, the spring break should be moved back. But, you're not representing, the parents properly when you overlook what 60% of your parents are saying they don't want to have. Thank you.
Okay, the next person is Mr. Daniels, Raul Daniels, and it's regarding effective after-school programming.
May I pass this
after-school programming.
Okay. My name is Raul Daniels. I am a parent of a child that attends PCE for the last 4 years. So far, we've been happy. In my time there, while my child was attending school, some of the things we've noticed with the local community are a lack of recreational facilities within, our portion of Austin and the rest of Manor. We've also observed ineffective after-school programs. In this case, so far, they've only been paid programs, and we don't think that paid after-school reaches enough children and effectively. Other things that we've observed is low performance at some of the elementary. And that's not to say that things aren't being done, but it is still a reality that we're dealing with low performance at some elementary schools. With the picture I'm passing around, it's the first page that I prefer for people to look at. What I wish for you to imagine is an elementary school located where that building would be, surrounded by high-quality sport facilities, right? So basically, an elementary campus would be transformed into a, sports park, so to speak. The reason for doing that is in order to offer effective after-school programming to a campus-wide student population, you need more than just an indoor gymnasium. So what we've worked on over the years is coming up with a low-cost way to provide a campus that looks like that picture. Now, that picture is of a place that costs $14 million, but we think we can do campuses for about $100,000. Okay? On the operational side, to offer free-to-play after-school activities to kids, right, no cost, between $50,000 and $75,000 for the first year. By the second year, your cost continues to decline because you've already bought equipment and some of the other things that you'll be reusing. Now, over the years, we've given partial information to other select members of the administration. We're still waiting to hear an effective response and discussion. We can't continue to propose, not hear anything, or have one meeting and not hear anything further, okay? The reason for my efforts is that this is personal. I live here. My child attends these schools. If I get this program done, I would like it to be in Manor Independent School District. Some of the results that we're looking to come back from this is we want to see achievement gaps closed. There shouldn't be achievement gaps between ethnicities. There shouldn't be achievement gaps depending on where you live within the district. So although it is sports-oriented, we wish to teach kids how to follow their desire, how to develop discipline, and how to dedicate themselves to whatever it is that they're intending to do. The same criteria that you learn in sports can be transferred back into the classroom. So that's the ultimate aim of this particular program. It is not just to be happy or to find the next professional sports person. It is to build good students and hopefully complete adults as time goes on. So I've taken the time to develop the program, to reach out to certain administrative people in the past, to come here and to use this public forum to publicize what we've done so far. I am looking forward to hearing from whomever it is that would give the go-ahead for this and to start having substantial discussions again. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move to consent agenda. We will be pulling item I, agenda. Board members, are there any other items that you would like to pull for discussion? H?
Which items were pulled?
H?
And I.
I was already pulled.
I.
I was already pulled. I was pulled altogether, Sam. So, Tamika, you would like to pull item H for discussion? Where's Dr. Mosher? Item H.
He'll be right back.
Okay.
He'll be right back.
Okay. Where is he? Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Vera. Yes. Dr. Vera.
I can address any question with regard to the D policies, if that's the question.
Yes, so I have questions with the proposal to not accumulate local days. Typically, as you have here on the demonstration that you just gave us, AISD has accumulation. They don't pay out, but it really protects especially our teachers who do go on maternity leave and need to use their accumulated hours so they don't lose them. So can you give me a little bit more feedback as to how our policy can mirror some of the other policies in districts around?
Absolutely. Let me find that policy real quick. DEC local, I believe we're talking about DEC local, correct?
Yes.
DEC local, I believe we're talking about DEC local, correct?
Yes. Because I believe it's DEC local and DEC.
Yes. So the recommendation is that the local leave should not continue to accumulate. Each year, faculty and staff receive 5 days of local and 5 days of state. The district also provides 15 days of catastrophic leave and then 15 days approved second time of catastrophic leave. So you can actually get up to 30 days of catastrophic leave for issues related to pregnancy and complications with pregnancy, as well as the 10 days of state. So you're at 45 days now. And then if you add the 30 days of local leave to the 45, you could actually end up with about 75 days, which is about half of the year where you could be gone. What administration is trying to do, and I want to also say that you're absolutely correct. If you look at local districts around, Austin ISD accumulates, but they don't pay. Bastrop accumulates 60 days, but again, they don't pay either when you leave. Georgetown accumulates 30 days. Elgin accumulates without a limit. And then Eanes also accumulates up to 90 days with 10 years of service. So when you look at districts around us, they do tend to accumulate local days, but when an employee leaves, there's no payout for those days. What this translates into for administration sometimes is an employee is reaching the end of their contract and they're, am I doing something wrong? And they're, sorry. An employee reaches the end of their contract and they have about 60, 30, 20, 80 days saved up of local leave. Actually here it's only 30. And so they miss the last semester of work. They'll decide to resign effective at the end of the school year, but then they'll throw in those 30 days and burn those days. So we end up with students in classrooms for 30 days without a classroom teacher. And so it makes it difficult because now you have a cost of that teacher, and you're still paying their daily salary, and then the cost of a $100 sub for their daily salary, and then the unspoken cost of a student who doesn't have instruction from their regular teacher, and then you have the fact that the student, the actual position is frozen. You can't fill it. So you have to keep that position frozen. You can't fill it with a certified teacher. So the position is held hostage, the student is held hostage, and then the teacher is burning, all of that leave. They can use up to, again, 30 days it's saved here. I'm not opposed to considering whether we continue to accumulate it, but I just want the board to be aware that it adds to the fact that we're having students in classrooms without their actual teacher there many times.
Respectfully, that's typically not how that works. So, I mean, in my experience...
Well, I see it every day.
Okay. I didn't interrupt. But typically, we can also have it accumulate, but also put some criteria that after 5, 10 days, whatever the criteria is in policy, that they have to have it approved. Is there a middle ground that we can have here instead of not being able to accumulate? Because for someone that is out on maternity leave that's going to be out for 3 months anyway, it takes a very long time to roll over 3 months of leave. I mean, you had to be here for what, 7 years in order to do it?
Well, if you have 5 days a year, then it would take,
5 years.
Five years.
6 years.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years.
Yeah. So I'm saying it's gonna take a significant amount of time to.
I absolutely agree. I think there's some middle ground that we could look at, Board Member Thomas, and try to come up with a compromise. There's absolute ground that we could look at.
Can you tell me approximately how much we're paying out now per year to those that are leaving the district?
So we're talking about two different things. We're talking about local leave, and so we're paying out local leave as through teachers who are gone, not there, and the sub costs and the teachers being gone.
Okay.
But we're going to probably talk about DED here in a little bit, which is non-duty, and there's an actual number that I can give you, the number of days that we're paying.
Yeah, because I just want the board to be clarified. I'm not asking about the non-duty days. I'm asking about the cumulative
local leave.
And being able to have a criteria in place to be able to approve that so that we don't have students sitting there for months, but also people who have earned this over time is not just losing it for no reason, because there are credible medical issues in which they would be able to, they're going to always be covered by FMLA, but they won't be getting paid. So it gives us an opportunity to let the door open to pay them.
I completely understand, and I think that's possible. I think we could limit the number of consecutive days. Absolutely.
I had the same problem, Dan, with this, simply because we just received some of the information and said that they accumulate, but they don't pay.
Correct.
And if we aren't careful, we want to make sure that we keep our staff here. And if they find that it's more advantageous to go to another district that actually does that, then we might lose some employees.
So would it be fair to table it for?
The only one that I had any real problems with was that part of it. I went back and researched it a little bit more, and I some feedback from Dr. Mosier and Dan. And,
I think one of the
sure.
things that we can do, because I'm like you, being able to carry it over, we're talking about doing more for our tenured staff, making sure that people that's been there 5, 10, 15,
Right.
20 years will have an avenue to be able to work with the district to kind of save those days in a
Sure.
way to where they can use them
Right.
the longer they're here. So I think one of the things that we can do is I will push this back to the administration to come up with a, for this particular D policy, and to give you, the board, another shot at it, and we can bring that back up at the next board meeting with just that one policy. If we can exclude that D policy and move forward with some of the other ones if there's no objection.
Well, I have one more. The one that says that teachers cannot, it's a private tutoring cost. As far as I know, no other district does that. So, because teachers, what they do on a non-contract time, typically
Okay, so,
is not
can
governed by the
I,
government.
so in DEC local, that's not DEC local, but DEC local has, several other pieces in it that are up tonight for review. And so we pull that whole policy, all of those other pieces that are in there. But we can go back and create language, to Mrs. Thomas's concern about, leaving the accumulation of local days and then also putting a limit on the number you can use. I think that's actually in another policy. It's actually in the same policy. So that can be done. But I'm wondering if pulling that entire policy pulls 4 other
Right,
revisions.
and we can't move forward with any of the policies that are brought before. And we can't move forward with any of the policies that are brought before.
Language on, how to make a motion with pulling that one piece of that policy and not all of
Well,
it.
would it be 2 pieces, Tamika?
Yeah.
Would it be 2 pieces, Tamika?
Without that, okay.
Now, we're talking about two different, there's two different policies. It's the private tutoring policy.
That's a DBD.
Yes, that TASB recommended we stop doing. Yes, and then, but.
Would you like me to explain the policy
The
DBD
policy is
for the rest of the board?
The other one.
So policy DBD's recommendation from TASB is basically just that. It says private tutoring, an employee shall disclose in writing to his or her immediate supervisor any private tutoring to district students for pay. Teachers shall not privately tutor their own students for pay. And so TASB recommended, and I agree with this, because what you're basically saying is that the teacher's responsible for delivering instruction in the classroom such that students learn. And so their job is to teach that instruction. They're also required to have tutoring available for the students in their classrooms as part of their schedule. They tutor 1 day a week, 2 days a week. It's part of what teachers do to bring up their students academically. So if teachers are teaching in a classroom and they're providing tutoring, then for them to have 2, 3, or 4 students that are under their supervision and the parents are having to pay them to tutor their students to pass, it creates a situation where it could be possibly a conflict of interest or possibly open itself up to a teacher utilizing extra pay for that same task that they are to instruct students. So that's my only concern by bringing that policy and allowing teachers to get extra pay for extra tutoring of their own students. It doesn't prohibit them from tutoring someone else's students, but of their own students on their own caseload.
So I just want to clarify, TASB did not agree to our policy. Matter of fact, TASB said that our policy needs to be deleted, correct? The recommendation wasn't. The recommendation wasn't.
That particular sentence.
Yes.
It's not necessary to put it in policy. It's better suited to be placed in the employee's
Right.
That was the verbatim.
Is it any other, so let's take some time to look at other districts, because while that sounds bad, the reality is most teachers who are tutoring, parents are approaching them. They're not creating an enterprise for for tutoring. And if a parent comes to you and says, hey, you have been doing a great job with my kids Monday through Friday, I would like you to come to my house on Saturday, then of course that teacher should be expected to be compensated for it. So let's figure out what other districts are doing, because to our point, we don't want to be doing something that no other district is doing.
Okay. Ms. Cortez and Mr. Sumariba, how do you feel about, do we need to table this? I think, I mean, I have my opinions on it.
Honestly, I think that, you know, my son is a music instructor, and but he doesn't do it for his students at all. He can do it for other kids in the district, but he doesn't do it for his kids at all. So I think it's actually the norm, and
but we can just vote on it. I mean.
Yeah, we can just vote.
Yeah, we can, but go,
are we gonna vote on it separately, though, at this point? Are we gonna vote on it separately?
Yeah, we're just gonna vote.
DBD.
It's DBD.
Mm-hmm.
It's DBD.
So are we gonna?
I believe we want to vote on DBD, and we want to table D. Vote on DBD, right, and we want to
two that Ms.
table
Thomas
D.
brought up.
DEC,
But I think one is just gonna be excluded, so I think.
I believe D would be the only one excluded, and DBD, we are going to
We're
vote
gonna
on.
vote on
Ms.
it.
Cortez, what is your thought?
Well, I can vote on it, but at the same time, I mean, we do have 3 board members missing, so I don't know.
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, we have a
We
quorum.
do have a quorum.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
We do have a quorum.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, here you go.
Whether it goes or not.
Oh, I don't know, here you go.
And if it's tied, it's just.
So, I just want to fully understand DBD. That would eliminate teachers from tutoring their own students
Their caseload. So,
and having compensation
it says teachers
for that.
shall not privately tutor their own students for pay, or is the sentence that is
Oh,
in
no,
there.
but read the whole thing. You can't
Okay,
just
so the
say-
whole thing says private tutoring. It says, an employee shall disclose in writing to his or her immediate supervisor any private tutoring of district students for pay. Teachers shall not privately tutor their own students for pay. And so the question is, should we remove the statement of teachers shall not privately tutor their own students for pay? The thing I want to clarify is TASB's recommendation was if we don't keep it here, we put it in our handbook. So it still would prohibit teachers from tutoring their own students for pay if it's in the handbook. It just won't be in policy. So you can still have additional requirements in your handbook that are not in board policy, but TASB recommends that you maintain this prohibition either in your handbook or in policy. So
But I thought the TASB, to clarify, said if you would like to keep it as a district, then you need to put it in your handbook. That's not saying that they're advocating for it.
Okay.
Because my question was, and what I asked before this meeting, was to look at the other districts around, are they doing anything like this? And far as what I understand, the answer is no. So when we start looking at teacher retention, when we're doing something that the other surrounding districts aren't doing, that becomes very questionable to me. So is anybody else?
I do believe it creates a conflict of interest
That
where...
wasn't my question. I just asked if anybody,
So
any other
I haven't had an opportunity to research that. I do know that in some fine arts programs, that it's not something that fine arts teachers cannot do. But I have not had an opportunity to research it in other districts.
I'm good with just, we can.
So are we going to pull both
Yeah.
then?
That one
Let's-
policy, we can come back. Let's do a
Yeah.
little bit more research and
Yeah.
find out what other
Let's
people
do
are
that.
doing with that.
So we're going to,
policy.
yeah, right,
Yeah, so I
absolutely.
think we're good there, just kind of pause on that one a
Let's
little
take
bit.
a look at it.
Pull both of them and bring it back, for our
Both of
June
them then?
meeting. Yes, we're excluding both. Right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and table both so we can get clarity. And if you guys could make sure that you get us the information from what the surrounding districts are doing and send that out to the entire board. Right? Yeah, we are, but we're going to exclude DBD and D. I'm sorry? DBD and D.
What? No.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Okay, she's professional.
You are professional.
It's just, so we're gonna exclude D and DBD locals.
Yeah.
Okay, she needs both of them.
And DB.
So,
What I did was I looked up Toto and Austin, and if they do do private tutoring, they just must disclose it to their immediate supervisor.
You're gonna be fine.
We'll find a better
Yeah.
avenue as we move forward.
yeah, but isn't TASB sending all this to all the districts? It's
Yes.
a recommendation? That's what I was,
Each district, when they develop their own local policy, has an option
Right.
to choose or not choose their recommendation.
right, so,
You'll see it, some districts will grab hold to exactly what they say, some will modify it a little bit,
yeah.
and some will exclude it altogether.
But Mr. Samarito, I just want to be clear, this is not a
Sure.
standard
sure.
one. This is something that we were doing that they said, hey, if you're gonna do it, this is how you're gonna do it. It's not so it can
Or
be
recommended how.
Okay, I really haven't gotten that close into it, but
Yeah.
I'm sort of wondering if TASB made the recommendation, there must have been a reason why.
Right.
And they may not have had,
Absolutely.
the other districts may not have had a time to look at it and actually put it in the policy. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I move to accept local policy updates as recommended, except as follows. With regards to policy DEC local, I move to accept policy revisions as presented with the exception of the changes to accumulation of local leave, which is the districts will not change at this time. I further move to exclude the proposed changes of policy BBD local as presented. Yay. BBD local.
It's on record, so we'll go back and clarify exactly.
Okay. I can do all consent now, right?
Yeah.
I'll
Right.
second it.
Okay. Right?
I'll second
You
it.
All in
seconded?
favor?
Yeah, I
All
did.
in favor?
Okay.
I'll move that. All in favor?
Yeah.
All in favor?
We haven't consent.
However,
Okay.
we're
Yes.
doing, calm down.
Those two items
Okay.
are taken out.
Let the record show that it passed 4-0. Let the record show that it passed
My
4-0.
first motion, yay.
Now, I'd like a motion. Who would like to make a motion on consent agenda, consent agenda items A through J,
J,
with the exclusion of I
and H.
and H.
Right.
There you go.
I'll make the motion that we accept as presented.
I second it. Yay.
As presented.
All in favor? Oh, I have a motion by Sam Samarita and a second by Tamika Thomas. All in favor? And a second by Tamika Thomas. All in favor?
Yes.
We pulled H.
We voted on it
Oh, well,
separately.
it was
But we
separate.
voted on it
Just those items.
separately.
Separately.
But we voted on it separately.
Very good.
John said, I don't know what I voted on, but I did vote. We will now move to information items. Item A, 5A, monthly financial report. Presenter Arthur Martin. Monthly financial report. Presenter Arthur. Hey, Arthur, how are you?
Hey.
Melanie.
Last time he just couldn't make it. This time I paid him to stay away.
Oh, there you go.
I did so well last time. Hello, board and Dr. Avery. I'm so old-hat at this now. You have before you the financial information for the month of April this time. Excuse me, and as you can see, we have almost all of our revenues collected, and we should at this time. We just have a little bit left. The second page will show you the percentages. We're at 98% revenues collected. We're at 80% expenses, which is where we should be. For the last few years, we've had an April 15th cutoff for all of our POs, so everybody's been real good about getting everything in. If we keep going like we have been going, I did a little projection of expenses. If we have 2 more months like we had in April, we should be right at a 1.9 or a $2 million deficit, which is, I think, where our former CFO told us about where we'd be. So, which is a little bit better than we were in March. I did another projection for that when we'd have been at 2.1. So we did a little bit better in April than we were doing in March. And looks like we're right to hit that $2 million deficit, and hopefully if we keep going a little bit under, we might even go a little bit lower than that. But right now, we're slotted right at 1.9 mil for the deficit overall for the year. All we should be having come in really is payroll and utilities. Everything else is pretty much done for the year.
So, I'm sorry. So what was the total deficit for this year?
We're slotted, if we keep going like we're going, probably 1.9 or right at 2 million.
2 million for the entire
For the year.
Oh, so if the projection was 5.
Yeah.
Remember at the board workshop, we talked about the district, administration provided the board with a $2 million deficit,
Right.
proposal to get us back in the black. That proposal was presented at the board workshop, and we were going to provide you with a little bit more detail on the names of the individuals that we were going to be working through attrition to accomplish things.
Right.
And so, and also looking at our projections for enrollment for next year
Right.
to offset, that deficit. So we feel pretty good about the recommendation that's provided to the board. It's just a matter of just working through, and we'll talk a little bit about that in executive on some of the recommendations as well. So we can kind of have
And
a
nothing
little
going crazy in the next couple of months, where we should be.
Okay, great.
All right, anything else?
I'd like to commend
Questions?
the finance department for doing such a great job. Back in, just a few years ago, we were, at a negative $14 million
Well,
deficit?
we were slotted for that, but I think we came out a little bit better than that.
Do you remember how much better? Like
I
a
think
10
we were
million, I
about-
think it
yeah,
was, right?
I thought we were about 7, but
7?
I'll take, yeah.
Or take the credit for doing
Either
well.
way, we came out ahead, I know that. I know we came out ahead. So, yeah, they're doing a lot of hard work over there.
And I just know that in the future, we're gonna be right there, and we're not gonna be in a deficit anymore. Call it out
Hard over
and
there.
receive it.
There's a lot of hardworking people over there. Thanks for appreciating that.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank y'all.
We also got to call some money out. Like we call $7 million, Steve.
So we will move on to information item B, CTE Perkins versus transition plan. That's interesting.
Vice President Celadon, Dr. Avery, and Board of Trustees, thank you so much for inviting me back. I always like to come back and give you a great update on what's happening in CTE. I always like to come back and give you a great update on what's happening in CTE. What's now accepted and what's July 1 of this year. What's now accepted and what's July 1 of this year. Last year, the background on that is last year, the federal government, years since they updated 5 legislation, and it's been quite a year since they updated it. So this new legislation, there's a few major changes. This new legislation, a lot of good things about the new legislation. Then there's some things a lot of good things about the new legislation. Then there's some things that are going to cause us program areas, which is probably a good thing. But I'm going to let you know what these changes represent for our students and how it's going to affect locally. So a couple of the big changes are there's really a huge focus on STEM and certifications, where in the past it was more the pathways, are they going to complete 4 years for an endorsement? Everything was revolving around House Bill 5. That's kind of changed a little bit in the new Perkins legislation, and we have to keep in mind that the federal Perkins legislation drives state programs. All 50 states chose to do a transition plan. So this way, this plan won't take effect 1920. That's going to be a transition year for our state as well as the other 49 states. That we had a choice, every state had a choice whether or not to do a transition year. Every state chose we're going to do a transition year. For the first time ever in the history of Perkins, back from the 1980s, there is now a definition of what a concentrator is. In the past, every state got to choose what a concentrator was. Now and this is much lower than any of the CTE people expected, it's only 2 credits from 2 courses. That is the new federal definition of a concentrator. Now, what the state is looking at doing is they're looking at having a concentrator as well as a completer, and we don't know what that definition is going to look like yet, but we will await and see what the state does during 1920. We're hoping that it'll remain what it is right now, which the concentrator right now is 3 credits, in at least 2 courses in a sequence of any pathway. So we're hoping at least for a completer, that's the minimum requirement for that. Funding now, for the first time ever, can be used in the middle school. So we're really excited about that. Even though we won't be getting weighted funding unless the state decides on that at the last minute, but we're not expecting that to happen. But we are Perkins funds for middle school. So we will be using a % of our Perkins funds, and I'm really looking forward to that because we are, as of next year, we'll be seeing a lot more projects. We are, as of next year, we'll be seeing a lot more projects and engaging programs, and so we will be able to help engaging programs, and so we will be able to help support teachers that are going to the, in fact, this summer we'll be able to help support teachers that are going to the, that's kind of exciting news. And the entire plan, if you really want some easy reading, the entire plan, I really want some on there, and 52 it's red, because that's how many changes are coming down the line. And most of it's red, to read that, that's how many changes are coming down the line. So you're more than welcome to read that. And then certifications. So what happened was, because they are concentrating so much on certifications, no longer is it just a pathway that you're taking 4 courses. The state is now saying, and this goes along with what our CCMR accountability, and this goes along with what our CCMR accountability is. They have now moved check that little box that is certification. They have now moved there's going to be 200 certifications, which is great. Next school year, there's going to be pathways that had no end to that rainbow. So if you remember the first time I came in, and I showed you each of the pathways. So if you remember the first time I came in, and I showed you each of the pathways, and a lot of them did not end in a certification. I will show you now those pathways the next time I come back. I will show you even by course students. So they won't all necessarily be in their senior year certifications for students. So they won't all necessarily be in their senior year certifications and actually stack those certifications, able to earn which not only are great resume stack those certifications, starts them at higher salaries, but actually starts accountability at higher salaries. Certifications, if you go into accountability, or if you want a copy of it, I always keep it on my desktop on my computer website, or if you want a copy of it, I always keep it on my desktop on my computer. Email me. It actually a column that if those students have that certification when they graduate, that if those students have that certification when they graduate, it's great news all the way around for that. The strands that, it's great news all the way around for that entire, but again, these are just important points. If you look at the entire, but again, these are just important points. They've been consolidated. Combined, business and finance indicates that we right now have a greater the student interest in our finance that we right now have a greater probably interest in our finance courses next year. So we probably will be looking after next year. So what's great about that finance pathway? Okay, so what's great about even those students that right now are sophomores or juniors, even those students that right now are sophomores or juniors, they're not going to set it up to where we can add those pathways. They took as freshmen and sophomores to where we can add those courses as part of the pathway. So it's not like anybody's going to be left in the dark. That is part of the pathway. So it's not like anybody's going to be left in the dark. Nobody's going to be left out in areas, so whether it's now under manufacturing or whether it's and I'll let you know more about that next year as all of this, as we transition, because it won't take effect till 2021. The STEM initiatives, we have proposed for 2021, and I've talked to Dr. Avery about this, and I think it would be a wonderful program for all of our campuses is to be integrating Project Lead the Way computer science pathway. So that includes coding, it includes cybersecurity. This is up and coming, and this is something our students need. So we'll talk more about that, but next year we can use that as the planning year to start integrating the Project Lead the Way computer science. In our education, we've seen in the past couple of years, we have not had that much student interest in education and training. However, we've had, and I've met with the counselors several times on this, we've had quite a bit of interest in early childhood development, which overlaps a lot of the courses, especially the foundational courses in the 9th and 10th grade, overlap child development as well as early education. Well, it just happens, we're opening a new pre-K center. So what a wonderful time to think about moving that education and training pathway over to early childhood, being able to internship our students right on our own campus within our district and growing our own. So, with everybody's thoughts and ideas on that, we're going to look at transitioning during our transition year next year at moving that over to early childhood. So, now the greatest slide here is our current certifications. Last year, and this was through the ACC Continuing Education. Everybody keep in mind, we were spending $250,000 on that program. Last year, we had a total of 28 certifications for the entire year. That came through ACC's certification program. We had no certifications that came from our campuses. This year, I'm really proud to say we already have, and this was wrong, the 25 NCCER is actually 26, but I didn't find out until last Thursday. We had one student that the teacher wasn't sure if he was going to be able to pass all of the modules because he was doing some remediation, but lo and behold, last week he did finish the modules, so we do have 26 now that have finished. I'm sorry. So we do have 26 now. We have 26 that have finished their NCCER. Our CCMA, we have had 3 students already pass. We had another 3 that 2 of those 3 were within 10 points of passing. I've already set up a time to reproctor them in July. We've had a 50% pass rate already. This is all we had last year in medical assist as far as the percent pass rate. I think I can get that up to an 80% pass rate because I think at least 2 out of the 3 that didn't do as well as we had hoped they would do in July will be able to pass when they take it a second time. We've had 2 certifications in Google Cloud. We have 5 ASE in progress as we speak. 13 mouse certifications in business, in floral. We only could send 9 to take for the first round because of it being out of town in Houston. We have another 14 that'll be testing on the 29th of June. Those 9, the initial 9 that took that floral certification, have already passed that. So we're expecting the other 14 to pass as well. As far as the 22, and then in AV, we have 5 Premier Pro that are in progress. So if they do as well as we hope, we will have a total of 78 this year.
Wonderful. Wow.
Any questions?
Yes, so as we have added all these new certification opportunities, can you speak a little bit about how parents are going to be notified? Because I'm thinking about like an 8th grader, and you come to them and say, hey, do you want to take this certification? His or her answer might be, I don't know.
Okay.
But are parents going to be given the opportunity to pick this in collaboration with their students?
The courses themselves will end in the certification. So if a student chooses any one of our pathways from next year forward, all of our pathways will end in some form of a certification. So it will be the choice of the pathway, and yes, the certifications will be listed within the course guide once we know all the courses that they're going to be offered in. So will the students really have a choice when they complete a pathway? Not necessarily.
No, so I wasn't asking about the student. I'm asking about the parent in the initial selection of a pathway, a parent's given.
Yeah, it would.
Student-parent meetings that they have in middle schools select the pathway that they're going to be on. That's done. It's a requirement that we do every year.
Right.
So can you give her a little bit more information about
that?
The timing of that?
That's what I'm saying. So we wouldn't have, the counselors would know because it will be in the course guide. Or on the, we can actually add it to the choice sheets also. Because if we have it in the course guide, then, and I have been meeting with the counselors on a weekly basis, so just to kind of iron all this out as we go through this transition plan, because this is a huge amount of certifications that we're going to begin offering as of next year. So I think what the best course of action is going to be is, because we will be adding it to the course guide, is probably to add it to the choice sheet. So when they do have that conversation in the 8th grade, then the parent knows this will be part of the expectation for the completion of those courses.
So they
Does
can
that help?
change their pathway.
Yeah.
So they can,
Yeah.
they have to sit down with the counselor parent, initial meeting at the 8th grade level. But before they go to 9th grade, set and establish a direction that they want to go. You know, and that keeps them kind of focused. So, but say if a kid wants to go from computer science to engineering, they still have a pathway they can travel to get back to a different pathway if they so choose. But it is it's a yearly conversation with a parent regarding what pathway your child is going to be on. So that's kind of what she was asking. She wanted to kind of know, how do you get the parents involved?
Yes.
Do you have a good pathway? Part of the course catalog and course selection is what parents and students should be able to do together.
Okay, good, because I'm thinking of my little nephew, and he's amazing, amazing. But if you ask him, does he want to do anything, his first answer is no. So I just want to make sure that parents
Definitely
get
have the
a-
parents.
Right, and they have been having those one-on-one conversations in the 8th grade with the parents. So I really like that they're doing the one-on-one, and actually the counselors have been very comfortable now about calling our office to find out if a student wants to switch a pathway, which is very possible. You know, they start in their freshman year. By the time they're a sophomore, they really have a different focus, and there's never a problem with switching a pathway for a student.
Great information.
And then they can still complete.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Still complete.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We will move to information item C, field house construction update. Information item Jerry Blizzard. Field house construction update.
So let's just get up here and sing. We'll just go from right there. We'll make some noise and change the world. We'll just go from right there. We'll make some noise and change the world. Some of the information that we give you always is a little bit behind. So you see where we're at when we look at the field house project. You'll always see where we're at when we look at the field house project. You'll always see we poured the foundation to the gym already, and now we're poured the foundation to the gym already. And now we're actually pouring the pictures that I have for you here that you see out there now are really of the gymnasium. So the pictures that I have for you here that you see which will be are really of the gymnasium very soon. We also have the tilt walls which will be coming up and standing up very soon. As you see down towards the end, dates on here for things that are really going to focus on for you, so you'll be able to tell when things are actually starting to move. That are really going to focus on for you, so you'll be able to tell when things are actually starting to move. June 3rd is the target date that coming up I want you to really look at, because I think June 3rd is the target date holiday break. You're going to really look at, because I think when we come back from that holiday break, you're going to see walls. You're going to start seeing roof panels coming on. Steel structures on top. So it's just going to kind of appear one day from just out of the ground. We're just going to raise it. So it's just going to kind of appear one day from just out of the ground. We're just going to raise it, so like the pyramid. And in this report, it doesn't show if you got a chance to look, they're starting. And in this report, it doesn't show if the detention. If you got a chance to look, they're starting on the retaining wall. Starting to get that detention pond. They're starting to move all our dirt parking lot. Starting to get that action underway and start our parking lot. This is a lot of concrete, y'all. So this is a lot of concrete, y'all. And we're moving along. We're on target. Our schedule looks good. And we're moving along. We're on target. Our schedule looks good.
On target and on
Are there
budget?
any questions you have about the project?
On target and on budget?
Yes,
Any
okay,
other
no
questions?
kumbaya or nothing, huh? All right.
Thank you so much for the
Hey, no
information.
kumbaya or nothing.
Moving right along
Thank you so much.
to information item D. Moving right along to
Board committee
information
update.
item D. Board committee update.
Yay, let's start with me.
Start with
Who's the, yay, let's start with me. Who's gonna present the
goals, decisions, mission and goals.
That's later.
Oh, okay, well, congratulations, they just told me. Okay, so we have, congratulations, they just told me. Okay, so we have, okay, so we've had the academic committee. Okay, so we've had the academic committee. Okay. I just want to make sure. And it was a fabulous time, what we had.
Done in the first meeting was
what identified the need to. Done in the first meeting was what identified the need to do some. Okay, so what we've identified is, academic policy, so we're gonna come back
as a
some
committee on
academic
the next
policy,
time,
so we're gonna come
and,
back,
as a committee
table that
on
for,
the next time, and,
a moment,
table that
because
for
our,
immediate kind of,
a moment, because
need for the
our
academic committee
immediate
is to be
kind
able
of,
to create
need
a
for the
budget
academic
recommendation
for
is to
things
be
that
able
we
to
still
create
need, for
a
critical need
budget
for academics,
recommendation
and
for things that we
Manor
still need
ISD, so
for
we have
critical
all
need
of our
for
committee
academics,
working on
and
that, and
Manor
ISD, so we have all of our
Todd was
committees
kind of
working
the
on that,
overall
and
wish list.
and now we're gonna come
Todd was
back,
kind of the
and when we hear
overall
wish list, you
list,
think of like
and now we're gonna
Disneyland,
come
it's
back.
not, and when
all
we hear
things
wish
that we
list, you
need,
think
but we're
of
gonna
like
come back. Our
Disneyland,
next
it's
meeting,
not,
really
it's
hone
all
in
things
and
that
try
we need,
to
but we're gonna come
get
back,
a solid
our next meeting
recommendation from all of the committee, and then pass it along to the board, because even though our committees listen, advise, kind of, concise information, we bring it all back to the board, and then we vote on it. And then the other thing we did was create mission and goals that you'll hear later, and vote on that. Anybody else from the academic committee wanna offer anything else?
I think I'm good. We're just gonna make the motion later on.
Yeah.
We're fine.
So we're super proud and excited to get started, and know that it's always an opportunity to improve, and that's what we look forward to.
Awesome. Donnie, Mr. Velasquez, Safety Committee?
I want to apologize for being late. My kid was being inducted into the National Honor Society, so that's where I was at.
That's all due to great parenting.
Which is an organization that I'm ashamed of saying I was never in, so.
It's a good organization.
Anyway, on the safety security, we postponed our meeting till after all the end of school year things, graduations, et cetera, and then we'll have some action items up here with Mr. Roredo on the updates for some of the elementary schools. That's about it.
Okay, great, thank you. Ms. Cortez, do you have updates on the construction committee?
We haven't met. And Jerry Blizzard just gave an update on the facilities, but I have an update on the Manor Schoolhouse Foundation. We have raised over $97,000 since the launch of the Schoolhouse Foundation, which was September. So we're very proud of that. There is a call for new board member seats on the Manor Schoolhouse Foundation website. We have a few seats open, and we are looking forward to connecting with individuals who are passionate about education and will assist the organization in accomplishing our mission. Also, the Manor Schoolhouse Foundation Innovative Grant recipients submitted their grant out reports on May 15th. And aside from that, I think that's about it. And we're going to do our next, we have our next meeting scheduled for June, I believe. And other than that, we don't have no more updates regarding that.
Anything on MOSBA?
Actually, yes, MOSBA has now increased scholarships from 93 this school year to 215. And so more students at every member district will be receiving more scholarships. So that's great news. And we will have some events happening at SLI, those that are going to SLI. We will share that information out. And the application for the new scholarship for the next coming years, because we will have multiple, is already out there. So I'll be sharing that with superintendents, principals, so he can share with the rest of the principals.
Okay, the audit committee has not met.
No, we haven't met.
In the parental involvement committee, I have an email from Ms. Cerna. So, PTA appreciation lunch was held on May 16th, 2019. We had over 80 PTA members present. Principals and community members were present as well. Entertainment was provided by Myra Hernandez. She's not here, but she's amazing, guys. And also, the Blake Manor Elementary School Ballet performed, and they were amazing as well. The May District Parent Forum will be held on May 23rd at Shadow Glen Elementary. We met with the liaisons to plan that out, and we have lots of great things planned. So one of them is the choir will be performing The Lion King for entertainment. George Townsend will discuss the cost of breakfast and lunch for the 2019-2020 school year. Dr. Mosier will discuss the dress code for 2019-2020 school year. And Becky Lott will be discussing the resource fair that is being held on August 13th, 2019. Becky, that will be our what annual resource? 19th annual. The statewide parent engagement conference has been scheduled for December 12th, 2019 through December 14th, 2019 in San Marcos, Texas. Manor ISD will be sending all parent liaisons along with parent representatives from each eligible campus. We had the opportunity to do that this past year, and it was a great resource for all of our parents and liaisons that were involved. What? Oh, Dr. Avery, you're going to have to write a big check for us all to go to this. No, I'm just kidding. Or where's Melanie? She's going to... Policy Committee, we are continuing to meet monthly and working through those policies along with Ms. Cortez and Ms. Thomas. So we'll be meeting with Dr. Vera again to kind of...
Maybe.
June 5th, we will have a couple of others join us, and we'll just continue doing that work.
I don't have an update for MES. We meet quarterly, so we didn't have a meeting but we did. We were at the decision day and contributed for the scholarship.
All right, great. So we will move on to information item E, Human Resource Update. Dr. Vera Van.
I was wondering when that was going to happen. Eventually. I have with me today Henry Wellington from the Upbeat firm that we work with, right there. And Henry's going to do a presentation for you. I'm going to hand out these folders. So this Henry's company represents a multi-focused attack that we have on the research-proven aspects that affect teacher retention, and so along with compensation, aspects that affect teacher retention, and so along with compensation, there are other things, environment, that make folks want to stay, leadership, all of these things play a part in how we retain our employees. All of these things play a part in how we retain our employees once or twice a year. We measure those if we're making improvements towards those goals once or twice a year to retain our staff. We're making improvements towards those goals. Come on up, Henry. One of the things that I complain with Henry about is, one of the things you see on these graphs, one of the things that I complain with Henry about is, in our minds, you see on these graphs, red. When you see how high Manor is performing in some of these areas, the red represents how high Manor is performing in some of these areas. The red represents, but we're still at gone down a few percentages among those characteristics. But we're still at high percentages share with you those results among those characteristics. And so I want to let Henry share with you those results, and I'll hand out these folders. Henry Wellington.
And thank you for letting me come back. I'm excited to be back to share. And thank you for letting me come back. I'm excited to be back. Survey that was given out in March this year. Survey that was given out in March this year. And just an overview. So our team at Upbeat, 80% of us. Just an overview. Educators. So our team at Upbeat, 80% of us. I built this survey with researchers. I was a teacher. Research teacher retention. I built this survey with researchers. And what we do is we measure engagement for over a decade. We look at these areas that are and what we do is we measure engagement, we look at these areas that are research to impact the climate, the culture, our district retention of teachers. Like we've been working. And then we work with our district partners, develop plans. Like we've been working on the district level, and then specifically with to develop plans schools. And I'm also here on the district level, and then specifically with the individual schools. And she was a superintendent in Virginia for a decade, a chief academic officer. She was a superintendent in Virginia. And she really decade as our leadership coach, and for that majority. And she really leads as our leadership coach, and she's met with the remaining principals on the district, and I met with the remaining. So what you'll see is last year we had 64% of teachers in the district. So what you'll see is last year we had 64% of teachers in the district. We have 450. We had 70% of teachers take the survey. The strengths that emerged were the care and commitment of staff. So 92% of teachers reported that teachers at their school care about student social and academic well-being. Teacher collaboration as well. 81% of teachers reporting that their teachers at their school trust and respect each other. And then self-efficacy around if you can make a difference with students, if you work really hard, that being at a good level, especially comparatively to our national data. Some of the areas that emerged that are areas of focus that we've met with the leadership team at Manor on. One is resources and facilities. So this question, 57% of teachers reported that necessary materials such as textbooks, supplies, and copy machines are available as needed by the staff. And in our meetings with principals, what we heard from them was some of the things going on with copy limits, and so that was a piece that came on the resources and facilities. And then teacher influence in school administration. This is actually one of the highest weighted categories in our survey in terms of impacting retention. So, you know, every school there's going to be every job, frankly, there are decisions that are made that are policies that impact your job. And so when teachers have a voice in that and they have influence in that, they're more likely to stay at that school. So that's another area to look at. And then just professional development. 61% of teachers reporting that the professional development at their school helped them improve their teaching, and a piece that to look at for the district. Dan, is this I think you might have.
So before you move forward, do you have any suggestions
This is not.
for how to get the professional development higher?
Yeah. So one thing you can do. Yeah. So one thing you can do. That's not the next slide. Yeah. Well, yeah, and
Come on up.
Come on up, Dr.
yeah, this is
Hannon.
not.
Come on up. Come on up, Dr. Hannon. Come on.
Timing of the board meeting. One of the things that we often find is with this, the survey results, you can disaggregate that and look at departments. For instance, in my district, when we were using this, we found out one particular department didn't feel like that they were as supported that year as others, and so we had plans to meet with them. How many of our science department? We had an initiative that year in our math, and we knew we were putting more focus with our math teachers. But once we went out and we said, well, we'll talk to the science teachers more so they have a better understanding. Another thing is we find with the principals having that discussion within their school, because in most locations you have district-wide PD that's supported, but there's often internal. And so having conversations with the principals, having conversations with their teachers and saying, we really want your input in what you need. And that's what we're finding in some of the districts with whom we're working, that once they have those conversations, the teachers are on it and say, I happen to need more support. And, for instance, in one school district, their newer teacher said, you know, we're getting great induction, but we're a little bit overwhelmed, and we have some suggestions of what we could do, because you can also disaggregate the data by how long they've been in the district. So they were finding there were different input from different levels of experience. What new teachers said sometimes they needed wasn't exactly the same as what more experienced teachers needed.
On the other side of professional development, I think I'm having my curriculum department look into how do we understand what type of professional development is needed, and being able to gear. We're even looking at having a staff member that might be directly focused in rolling that out across the district, because right now, Mr. Perkins is doing that along with all the other things he's doing, and it's not truly a focus on PD and how we do it. So we had a conversation just the other day about how do we do that? Can we get someone to specifically focus in on that in order to get, to reap the rewards of the teachers to respond differently to that particular question or to PD in general?
Yeah, because I think that you've done a unique job, especially since you've been here in Kudos, about starting and doing training.
I think the question is, now that we have that foundation, how do we have it be truly professional development where it's ongoing? Because what do you do when you go to a conference? You get all 13 things that you think you're going to implement, you know, yay! And then when you get home, you're like, I don't know how to do none of this for me. And then you implement one or two of them, but you don't really.
And I think understanding, and as the district has already started that, as you said, that focus, and with the support there, to continue that, because you are always bringing in, and I know the challenge is, you get momentum, and then people come in new, and how do you keep them up to speed, and then also how do you support them through the implementation? Because I might know it when I sit in a workshop, but when I go to try it, that's kind of another thing, right? Until I can get some support, so. There are a lot of things, and that's what we talk about with the district leadership and with the principals. There are a lot of things, and that's what we are looking at categories. So. You get it?
Yes. Thank you, Brenda. All right, so just a quick comparison. So last spring to this spring, and what you'll see, the blue bars on the right are the change from last spring to this spring. So if you look at parent-teacher communication, so that's gone up by 4 percentage points since last spring, and you'll see that in the question around are teachers at their school committed to building trusting relationships with parents, that improving, the parents and teachers at their school think of each other as partners, that growing from last spring. Teacher appreciation experienced one of the biggest growth areas, so 5 points. Specifically, that question around public recognition going up by 13 percentage points as far as teachers being recognized publicly within the district, and that's a clear change in practice being reflected there, and then, or just more of an emphasis. And then resources and facilities, so, that is an area still to be improved, but the questions about having access to appropriate instructional materials, that grew. The school environment being clean, well-maintained, that improved as well. Autonomy stayed around the same, and then there was a slight dip in terms of having control over content, topic, and skills that are being taught in the classroom. And then we see PD going down a little bit from last year to this year. And then just not on this slide, but we have met with the principals, and Brenda in particular leads this work in terms of the leadership coaching, but we meet with principals all over the country, and after she met with the principals here, she was telling me about everything they're doing with this data, and what we really see make a difference when retention grows is when principals look at this data with their teachers or with their leadership team, and they dive into it and they ask questions, because as a leader, you might have an assumption about why something is a certain way, but your teachers can give you more insight, and they've been doing that, and that's really hard work, and there's been a number of schools that have seen improvements and growth from that.
I want to thank you for kind of staying engaged with us. I know through our HR department, we kind of make sure that we are tying it back to principals. It's all about, principal improvement in every aspect of what they do, not only leading, but also, strategizing the things that they need to work on. And sometimes the feedback from staff is the best way to be able to figure that out.
Yep.
And so utilizing the surveys to help do that is a year-long process that we do to try to make sure that we're keeping, our eye on the target to improve. And I think it's all about continuous improvement. So again, the Upbeat service has given us an opportunity to do that. So we thank you for that.
Dr. Avery, there was a comment about number of copies that were not being. I mean, aren't we going to the paperless classroom now more and more because of the iPads that have been purchased? So why are the teachers
What's
having?
happening with that? We changed our copying contract this year. At the beginning of the school year, we got brand new copiers across the district, and so that we can be a little bit more efficient in getting things produced and copied. And I'm going to probably let Mr. Laredo, I don't want to say anything I'm not supposed to say, but it was just a transition from the old way we've always done it to putting restrictions on what can be copied. Some people were copying 1,000 color copies that cost 25, 30 cents a copy compared to black and white. I mean, there's just a whole lot of different avenues around that. So
it was, we knew there was gonna be probably a hit, you know, but we worked that out, and we worked through the school year. It's gotten so much better. We freed up some things. We clarified a few more things on copy use. You know, it was just a lot of those aspects, though, Sam. But we are looking for that digital, you know, perspective and utilizing, online submission of work instead of printing it out, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we still have a long way to go with that, though. We still got to go back to the basics, you know, and having that paper pencil kind of thing, you know, as well.
Any more questions? Comments?
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you
Thanks for
so
having me
much.
back.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
Thanks for
so
having me
much.
back.
We will now move on to item F, Capital Metro Transit Service in Manor. Jeanette Meter, Capital Metro Transit Service in Manor. Jeanette Meter.
I'm actually not the presenter, but I'm here to introduce Tony Lynch of Capital Metro.
Hi, members.
Tony Lynch?
Yes, Tony Lynch. I'm with Capital Metro, and I'm going to introduce a new service that we're going to be bringing to Manor on June 3rd. It's called Pickup. To get this up and running, I'll start.
Okay.
We're actually going to be replacing, there's currently a route called the 470 Flex that we run. We're going to be replacing that on June 3rd with this new service. And I'll discuss that in just a second.
Well, welcome. Well, welcome.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So, as I was saying, we're going to be bringing a new service here to Manor. It's an on-demand style transit service. It's similar to what you would if you used Uber or Lyft. You will use a phone app to book a trip instead of going and physically walking to a bus stop. So the app will look similar to this. We will also have a phone-in version, you know, for people who don't like using apps or don't have a smartphone. They can dial a number. We'll have a couple of reservation agents on hand who will book a trip for them. The goal is to have the vehicle show up within 15 minutes and then take them to their destination anywhere that is pedestrian friendly. So if there's a street that's got a higher speed limit, we might ask somebody to walk around the corner. But in general, in subdivisions, we'll pick the person up in front of their home. So basically how it works is a person will enter their pickup address and their drop-off address, and then that's basically it. You sit and wait. You see the shaded area here, that is the service area. It's about 7 square miles. And it includes, you know, the majority of the subdivisions here in Manor, especially the ones north of 290. This is the vehicle that will come by. We're going to have 2 of these that will be stationed here in town. The vehicle will not travel until there is a trip booked for it. So it's more efficient, it's greener than just having a bus. And I noticed today, I passed the Manor Flex 470, there was no one on it, still going down the street. So our goal is to have these sitting, staged, ready to go. When a trip happens, it'll then be dispatched to pick up that person. You won't see an empty vehicle driving up and down the same street every day. So really what this technology is allowing us to do is expand the service area, giving more coverage to the city. And I'll show that in a map here in just a second. So this is our existing coverage area for the Manor Flex. And this is what we're adding, being able to do this service. It's an additional 3 square miles that we're bringing, which hopefully will bring more riders. Currently, we have pretty poor ridership on the 470, and we think that opening this up to a greater number of people will hopefully increase the number of riders. So again, we're adding Shadow Glen, Stonewater, Presidential Heights, and Presidential Meadows to the service area. This is going to replace the 470 on June 3rd. The service is provided by Cap Metro in partnership with CARTS and Travis County. It's going to run weekdays from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The fare is $1.25. Children ages 18 and under ride for free. The goal is to pick up customers within 15 minutes of making a trip reservation. This doesn't replace Manor ISD transportation and will not service school campuses. Again, the larger service area includes Shadow Glen, Stonewater, Presidential Heights, and Presidential Meadows neighborhoods. Customer trips will determine the path of the vehicle, so there's no set route. There's no bus stops. The bus stop is your home, or your grocery store, or your bank, or the post office. Wherever you want to go, we will take you there within that service area.
I have one question.
Sure.
I was at a Manor City Council meeting
Yes.
a month or so
Yeah, I gave
ago.
that presentation.
And I think it was mentioned that the students would ride for free.
Yes, sir.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Capital Metro's policy is any student or child under 18 years of age, or UT student, ACC student, will ride for free.
So but you just mentioned that it doesn't stop at the schools.
Right. It doesn't go to the schools, but still, if they want to go to the pool, they want to go to a summer job, they want to go to a friend's house, they don't need a car. All they need is a smartphone or a landline, and they can call up and make a reservation from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and we'll take them anywhere as long as the origin and destination are both inside that service area.
Okay, as long as it's not a school.
Correct.
Okay. Right. But not from the school to the clinic. Yeah, right. If they want to go from their house to a job.
Yes.
They could go, but not to the school.
Correct.
Just not to the schools, but
Just
like,
not to the schools.
Sam, you said a clinic, like we have the
Yes.
Manor Clinic, if
The
they needed
clinics,
to go to the doctor.
I believe we worked with the area regional clinics to make sure they were in the service area. So I'm fairly certain there's 3 or 4 that are in the service area currently, and we made sure that they were.
Yeah, I misunderstood that at the other meeting.
Well, actually, we initially had intentions of doing the schools, but it just didn't turn out that it would work out with.
Okay, well, that's what I thought I heard y'all
you
say
didn't
something
mishear it.
like that.
You didn't mishear it. It's just there's a problem with us. Let's say we have 7 a.m. I'm not familiar with the time school starts, but imagine 50 students trying to use the app simultaneously to get to school. Right. And then we're going to have a lot of angry students because we can only fit 9 people on one vehicle at a time.
Right.
Somebody's going to be late. It just doesn't really work out. But what this does is hopefully provide a means of getting to other places within the service area.
Now, how would you suggest for us, I mean, especially for high school students that are needing, that's going to work, and they're looking, they don't have a car to get there, how would you like for us to communicate that to our students that are school age, that may need that extra ride to work or whatever in town, and being able to promote that at high school level to let them know that this is an option. They love the app piece. They love Uber and all that. They know how to do it. Let's get the word out. How can we help with that?
Great. Well, I can tell you what we're going to be doing is sending out a mailer to everyone in Manor. We can also send you flyers, that sort of information to post.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and I'll have Michelle Moe, who is you might be familiar with. She will be able to get that information to you.
Don't mind Scott Thomas or Zoe get that information, and they'll connect with you before you leave tonight. Because we would like to kind of make sure our kids have the option. Summertime's coming, and parents are working. They may not have rides. I want them to have that opportunity to kind of get there.
That's awesome.
And that's our goal, definitely. We want to have ridership.
That'll make a huge difference for our teenagers. They would actually be able to go to work, the ones that especially don't have transportation right now. Thank you for that service.
Sure, you're welcome. So that's all I had, if there's no more.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Thank you.
Good service.
Okay, so we will move now to action items. Item A, fire panel replacements at Bluebonnet Trail Elementary and Decker Elementary. Presenter Jerry Blizzard.
These are 2 of the panels that were in a condition that need to be replaced. I had, put those on the agenda for the cost, and we need to go ahead and pursue replacing these 2 fire panels. They're outdated, and they're situations where it's just difficult to find parts.
Are there any questions? If not, I will ask for a motion to accept item A, fire panel replacements at Bluebonnet Trail Elementary and Decker Elementary. Motion made by Tamika Thomas and seconded by Sam Samaripa. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
I'm here.
Oh, you're again.
I'm hanging out with you. I'm on the roll.
Apologies. We'll move to item B, correcting the roof and drainage system at Blake Manor Elementary.
Correct. When we originally put that on the agenda, we didn't anticipate what the cost of that would be. So we wanted to have something prepared, but when we looked at it, we were able to get the cost, it's roughly around $4,700 to get some overflow drainage done and correct that. So it was not an item that required board action, but we wanted to have it there in case it did come up with that type of price.
So we don't need to.
Yeah, it doesn't need it.
We don't need to, so we just skip
All
to
right.
item C.
I did have one question, though.
Yes, sir.
Was this, a persistent problem that we were having there at Blake Manor, or is it a new problem, or?
On that particular case, we had, if you recall, it's 4.5 inches of rain.
Right.
It has an underground drainage system, basically, and so all the downspouts go into culverts. And so, basically, when your ground is saturated, it has no place to go, it backs up into the piping, which ponded the roof. And so that's why you've not seen that massive amount before. It needs some work, yes, ma'am. It's not in the condition. We'll be talking about that. I'll be bringing that to you when we get into the roof assessment. And, we're talking about that in the upcoming bond and stuff like that. I think we're looking at a whole roofing program.
Yeah.
But what we did at this particular case, we're taking the overflow drain, so it won't pond up on the roof. It'll actually discharge off the building, and that's the problem.
Okay.
So if it starts backing up, it's going to just blow back off the roof.
One of those, where we talked about, the older facilities that we have, and what are we gonna do to kind of make sure that we are addressing some of those issues, because like I said, it's been how many years before we've had about 5 inches of rain. So we have to go back now and assess and be able to come back, to how we're gonna address some of the older facilities to work out some of those deficiencies that over the years that has kind of, come before us, and so we have to have a plan of action. And so that's one of the things that they will, I've requested them to be able to do, come back and assess the older facilities, and then come back with recommendations of how we can bring them up to 21st century code. I guess.
There you go. Very good.
Great.
There you go.
Okay, move on to item C, secure entries.
This particular item is a program that was designed a while back, and it was passed down from Mr. Brooks to me to execute, which is the secure entries, what I call the phase one, because it did not cover all of the campuses. So what had been done was some drawings and plans and specs have been put together, and we put that out to Balfour, and we also put it out to T.F. Harper, and came out with 2 costs, and I'm recommending that we go with Balfour and do that as a change request to expedite that part.
Is this a secure entries to, I think, 4 elementary schools?
Yes, sir.
It was in me.
So we're trying to get that work done before school starts, and so we want to go ahead and one of those is the Manor Pre-K Center.
Oh, wow.
And these are minor renovations, they're not major. There's moving some doors. There is maybe some walls that may be going here and there. It's mostly just securing the way kids go in and out, and securing certain doors, putting the keypad locks and those type of things.
And we'd be able to get that done before the next school year?
That's gonna be a challenge. That's why we're bringing it to you now. And we're starting with the highest priority, which is gonna be our new pre-K campus, and working there. But since the work is not real intrusive, I think it's very likely that we can work throughout the year to get that accomplished quickly. So I can't answer that.
I have one last question for me, but,
Yeah.
I'm seeing that we have some savings from the bond.
Yes, sir.
That's the 2016 bond, or which bond is it?
Yes, sir.
So apparently, we're having some savings from the other items that they were maybe overestimated, and now they came in low, and so we're having some sort of savings from the 2016 bond items.
There's some on different occasions. There might have been a budget set aside for the district for a particular item, and it was not contracted at the time. So once they went out and got the exact cost, like I know one of them was moving when we had furniture moved. There was a certain number set aside for that, but it didn't take as much of that money.
Okay.
So we're pulling little dollars here and there.
Right, and that's what I was asking. You know, we have these bond items, and apparently you've actually came under the estimate.
Correct.
Okay, that's what
I'm working with Karen on in the business offices. We're looking at those. We're just taking those and comparing our notes and paying our bills and saying, is there any more of this? No. Okay, then we can take the difference and go ahead and make that happen. Okay, then we can just
So I just
collect.
want to make sure that we're also, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
That we're also taking into consideration that the governor's, I guess, recommendations for safety as we're putting these things in. Because what I don't want us to do is put them in, and then when they come back and say, well, now we need to move entrances on the side of the building, and then we spend money and then we have to.
Well, that's why
spend money to.
yes, ma'am. And that's why we had, Claycomb has done the designs, and it has gone through their specs and plans, so it has
Okay.
gone through
We're
a life safety check and design.
We're going to go ahead and hold item C until we have clarification from legal.
Yeah, one of the issues that we need to clarify is the procurement side of it. I'm not real sure exactly how and what district did for procurement to get it done. So I'm going to have you guys have a sidebar with legal, and then we'll bring that back up.
If we need to, we can bring it back.
Let's just kind of move that one down, and let's go to item D. And Jerry, if you can get with Ann.
Yeah.
And then we can bring it back.
So item D, security upgrade for 5 elementary schools.
Good evening again, board members, Dr. Avery. This one, item D, as well as item E, are to finish all of the campuses now with the security upgrade. That's to get them upgraded with the latest intrusion, those sensors on the doors, the motion detectors, as well as the keypads, allowing for a more efficient utilization of a program called MonitorCast to be able to have schedules of entry into the building, and more importantly, to be able to monitor them. So we're asking you to approve those 2 items, which would be the 5 middle, 6 elementary schools altogether.
Take one at a time. One at a time.
One elementary school at a time.
2016 bond.
Yes, sir, the 2016. And yes, so item D are for 5 elementaries without, not Manor Elementary, and then item E is just specifically Manor Elementary School.
Okay.
And then item E is just specifically Manor Elementary School.
So, any other questions on item D? So, any other questions on? Do I have a motion?
That's presented on item D.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Mr. Velasco.
I'll second it.
And a second from Ms. Cortez. All in favor? And a second from Ms. Cortez. All in favor? Moving on to item E, do I have a motion to accept item? Moving on to item E.
I'll make a
the
motion.
motion.
Okay.
As presented for item E.
We have a motion from Mr. Samarita, and then we second Ms. Cortez for item E. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Motion passes 5-0. All right, moving along, we will Go to item F, price increase for paid lunch and adult breakfast and lunch. Presenter, George Townsend. And adult breakfast and lunch. Presenter, George Townsend.
Hello, School Board, Dr. Avery. As you can see in the packet, I provided the prices comparing to the other schools. I want to start off and give you the good news first. Actually, two great news, really. We're going to continue to do the universal free breakfast program. I do want to make sure you understand that it actually costs the department $100,000 every year, but we believe it to be a great program. We have a lot of kids eating breakfast, many of them athletes coming in later, and it's a wonderful program that we want to continue. Every child in our district gets free breakfast. And I want to be clear that we're mandated to have 9 schools that are universal free breakfast. But the way universal free breakfast works is you do not get the free rate. You just simply eat the cost of the paid and reduced kids. So we don't get that funding into the department. So it's important you understand what the word or how the universal free breakfast works. But I want you to also realize that both Del Valle ISD and Elgin ISD provide free breakfast, and Manor ISD was the first district to do that. And they've taken our lead role in doing that, and again, it costs us money. Here's the second thing I want to bring to you. The second thing is, this year with Dr. Avery's guidance and the cabinet, which I've already been to, we will be providing, I can't name the schools, but 3 schools will be completely free next year. Okay? Which means, what's nice about that program is community eligibility provisions. We get the complete 100% free rate for those schools. And that's very important you understand. Okay?
Is that for lunch?
For lunch, too.
For lunch.
3 schools, breakfast and lunch.
Because you went back and kind of did some numbers and checked the numbers for me, and because right now we have no schools doing that.
That's right.
Correct.
We will be coming back with 3 schools that we can do that. I will get back with you. I've got to get with Region 13, or I would tell you which schools, okay? But that's the good news. All right, now let's get to the line that I have today. Unfortunately, we have to stay competitive, and I will tell you, I would not be here at all. I would prefer we didn't have to raise prices, but it is necessary at this time. Okay? Yes, sir?
One question.
You got it.
So you mentioned the free breakfast. What about the summer lunch program?
Summer lunch programs, completely free all summer, both breakfast and lunch. Any kid from age 1 to 18. We do not feed below age 1, but it's 1 to 18. And if it's a special ed student, it's up to the age of 23. Completely free all summer.
But please clarify, there's certain campuses they have to go to get that free lunch during the summertime.
There's going to be 4 schools that are going to be open. Decker Elementary School, Pioneer Crossing Elementary School, Manor Middle School, and Manor Senior High. Now, Manor High School is not going to be open because there was some renovation that's going to be going on, so the senior high is going to be open. But we will be making deliveries at other locations. To assist Early College High School, we'll be making deliveries. And by the way, we're incurring costs on some of the things that we're doing. So let's get back to what I have to do tonight. I'm requesting that the board raise, if you have the document in which I showed the comparisons, you'll find that we're actually going to be behind the areas, and I do want to stay there. I want to keep the paid lunch down as low as we can, but it's necessary that I ask for a quarter tonight across the board. That's it.
I think it's well deserved, to tell you the truth, and I'll make the motion that we accept as presented. I'll make the motion that we accept as presented.
I have a first from Sam Samaruba and a second by Ms. Thomas. All in favor? Sam Samaruba and a second. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, board.
Okay, moving right along to item G. Consideration and possible action regarding a change order. Change order number 002 on the Manor New Tech High School additions and renovations 2016 bond project.
Dr. Avery, Vice President Celadon, Trustees. This is the change order number 2 we've been discussing for several months. We have an executed document by the contractor and the architect. We've settled on an amount for $250,966.12. And we've got to a point now where we need the execution from the board and from the MISD side to finalize the change order.
And this is the item that's been on the agenda, pulled from the agenda, on the agenda, and we have gotten with our attorneys and kind of came up with a negotiated amount. And this is something that we feel very comfortable with. I've had numerous conversations with Ms. Greenberg regarding this particular agenda item, and so we're the recommendation of the board is to accept administration's recommendation for this particular item. Administration's recommendation for this particular item. G. N. G. G.
We're gonna go.
G.
Okay. So we'll pull it.
Within F.
Okay. We're good?
So we're going to hold that and go to closed session.
They're grouped together, so it makes it tricky once you're here together. It is one of the ones listed in the closed session items here.
Okay.
To touch base.
We're gonna
going to wait.
We're gonna wait. We're gonna go into executive session, and then we're gonna come back and vote on that as well. So there's just need a few little clarifications to the board, advices from legal, but we should be on point to get it approved tonight.
That sounds great. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you. Any others
That sounds great. Thank you for your time, everyone.
that are going to be like that? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a tricky one. It was just the way it was worded.
Okay.
It was clear on
All right. So moving on to item H, consideration and possible action on resolution for the sale of real property to Travis County under the threat of eminent domain.
Closed session as well.
Just asked you. Right. That one's pulled.
It has been pulled.
So we didn't need to do that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Moving along to item J, consideration of possible action to establish board subcommittee on academic.
And this is an agenda item that Ms. Thomas visited about a little bit earlier on board committees. One of the newest committees formed was the academic committee. We have 3 board members and a host of district administration that is going to be part of the actual new and up-and-coming academic committee. And one of the things that we wanted to discuss in open session is the finalizing of the goal of the committee, in the mission of the committee, and so we want to make sure that we publicly kind of go through that, and I'm going to do that. Dr. Ewart is not here today, so I'm the lucky one, Ms. Thomas, and the original goal of the committee, and I'm going to read, so please bear with me. The main purpose of the academic committee is to measure the academic results of Manor ISD against the goals laid out by the district academic teams and the superintendent's annual goals. So it's really trying to mirror, what we set as a district, and then what the academic committee, curriculum department really figures out or finds that are important for the district to move forward progress-wise. So it's important. That is the ultimate goal of the actual committee. There was a revised goal, and I'm going to read the revised goal, and one of the things that we're wanting the board to agree upon is the selection of the original goal or the revised goal. And the revised goal states, the purpose of the academic committee is to evaluate the academic outcomes of Manor ISD students against the goals laid out in the superintendent's annual goals, student outcome goals. It's technically the same thing.
Yeah.
They were submitted just a little different, but it's ultimately the same goal. So I think we're going to be fine on either one that you guys select as the actual goal of the committee. Okay, we good there?
Any other questions for Jay?
I'll make a motion to accept as presented.
Any other questions?
The original.
You want all 3 or just?
The original.
So it should be, you should be reading the original goals, missions, everything together, right?
Yes.
And then.
Let me go back and retract that a little bit. Let me go to the original goals and roles. The original goal again, the main purpose of the academic committee is to measure the academic results of Manor ISD against the goals laid out by the district academic teams and the superintendent's annual goals. The role, to ensure the board and superintendent have a clear and shared definition of academic excellence for the organization, clearly defined and understood by all trustees, to ensure the board and superintendent have a clear and shared sense of how well the organization is currently performing and reaching that definition of excellence, to ensure the board and superintendent agrees on the next steps the organization will take in order to reach the set goal of excellence, and finally, to develop and deliver a clear and structured process for updating the board on the organizational performance of key academic outcomes on a regular basis. And that's similar to what we do now as we bring the student outcome goals to the board every board meeting so that we can understand which direction that we're going, and we have a year-long process of making sure we're transparent about the academic progress of the district. It's similar to what the Long-Store governance is telling us that we need to do. So we're just really trying to bring it all together in one focal point, and giving the committee a little direction of how we want to support the goals of the district. So that's the original concept that we came up with. Now let's go into the revise that the academic committee came up with. The mission, again, establish and operationalize policies of Manor ISD to achieve curricular, instructional, and assessment excellence. That's the mission. The goal, the purpose of the academic committee is to evaluate the academic outcomes of Manor ISD students against the goals laid out by the superintendent's annual goals, roles and responsibility, again, wordsmithing of the words, to ensure that the Board of Trustees, along with the superintendent of schools, and every employee of the district to have a clear and shared understanding of the terms curricular excellence, instructional excellence, and assessment excellence. 2, ensure that the Board of Trustees, along with the superintendent of schools, and every employee in the district have a clear and shared understanding of the current performance level of the district on the 3 excellence indicators. 3, benchmark the current performance levels of the district in all 3 excellent indicators against other school districts in the state of Texas. And 4, monitor performance levels of the district regularly in the 3 excellence indicators. So it's just the same thing, but broken out in real specific forms in the revised. So you can either take the original one or the revised wording, and we need to land on which one we want to go with.
Well, and thank you for that. I think that the issue is just making sure as we establish committees that we're transparent with the whole board of what our goal is and then what our deliverables are that we're going to have at the end. So as we are making decisions and bringing them back to the board, there's not a kind of aha moment of, well, why are we talking about this? So, so thank you so much. So the recommendation is going to be to do the revise?
Revise or revise?
Made a motion.
Oh,
The revise is a little bit more specific to the state accountability system, and also it's a little bit more specific regarding when you look at a curriculum audit across the district, you have 3 main areas of what the audit should be performing and what school district should have a focus on the curricular side of things. So I would also recommend that we do the revised approval, and then that'll keep us pretty honest about how we look at state accountability as well across the district. Plus, it helps to help to revise policy that's needed to be revised as well.
So I like the revised portion too because of the board, board of governments. I know that we have no policy in place for the curriculum.
Absolutely.
So will that be 2 separate votes? One to have this?
I would just do the revised goals and mission for the direction for the new committee.
Okay.
So Johnny's motion was to
accept the revised goals and mission for the committee.
I will second.
So I have a motion from Johnny Velasco and a second from Tamika Thomas. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Motion passes 5-0.
Right.
Goals and mission.
Yes.
Right, revised.
And I have that for you, Carla. I have it for you.
And that's sufficient to establish the academic committee?
I'm sorry?
Is that sufficient to establish the academic
so.
committee?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Is that sufficient to?
All right. So, now we move on to item L, consideration and possible action regarding formal selection for hometown hero honorees.
It's gonna be in closed, right?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we just
We
did.
did K, we did big K.
Well, yeah, we just did them
Yeah, that
together,
was-
sort
They
of.
just that's why I had
Together. Yes.
they
Should
just
be-
combined them.
Yeah, J and K.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're good.
Yes, consideration and possible action regarding formal selection for hometown heroes honorees.
So, how do we do that part?
I think we should discuss this in closed.
Sorry, I'm looking to legal as to what I'm supposed to say, because I want to
Right,
stay legit. As you noticed, we honored some of our hometown, or one of our hometown heroes tonight. We just wanted to open the conversation up to the team of 8 to try to figure out how that criteria is going to happen, and then how do we notify the community of how they qualify to be a hometown hero, because what I don't want is for us to start selecting and it not be a fair and transparent process, because we have so many people doing great things in our community that we don't necessarily know. So we want to make sure that we have a process that allows, the community as well as others to nominate.
Okay, for me personally, I do think that, Becky, you do an amazing job in
Yes.
Recognizing our partners in education. That list was over 260 people in our community and outside community and partnership. So I want to be very careful, me personally, to not cause any rift or anything in our community, because there are so many amazing people in our community, partners, businesses, even parents and secret silent givers that just want it, for me, I want to be very careful that we're not offending anyone or leaving anyone out in the process of doing the hometown heroes. When Ms. Thomas and I had talked about this before, I mentioned, there's Shanna with Good Luck Grill, there's Volkner Construction, who's been on board for years and years and years, and they give a lot to our community. So as we move forward in doing this, I think it's a great idea. It's something that I've personally wanted to do for a long time, and when Tamika brought it, when we talked about it, I thought it was a great idea. But I just want to be very careful. So we really need to work together in collaboration, the rest of the board, in figuring out how this process moves forward, and that we're not leaving anyone out.
If you don't mind, I think what I would recommend, if administration can kind of come together and provide the board with a skeleton, proposal of how we go about selecting, nominating, because I think it's going to be very important that every board member has an opportunity to make the recommendation, and we go through a selection process of getting someone for that specific spot. And if you don't have criteria or a process or a procedure, it's gonna be a subjective thing where somebody said, well, my nominee never got it. He or she has 5 individuals that got it. So I think it has to be really thought out and a process set, because it can be really tricky. So I think we want to we don't want to put anybody against anybody,
Right.
but we got to have a very clear process. So if you guys don't mind, we can give you the background of the skeleton part of it, and then let you guys massage it a little bit, add value to it, and then we can come back and be transparent about how we're going to do it. We have at least another month
to get it done. And school's out on Friday, and so I think we have a little bit more time to vet it all out. And I think the team can kind of come together and give you a good recommendation to where you guys can have a starting point on how you want it done, and then we want to put our best foot forward. I think the community deserves that from us. They do a lot for us, and so I think we just need to kind of rally the troops for you guys and help you move forward with it. And I think we can do that with the help of my team. I think we can get something on paper for you.
We have Manor Cares and Country Fixing, Red Nun. We have lots of hometown heroes, and I just commend Ms. Thomas for even bringing this up, because it is something that we probably need to consider doing, and absolutely moving forward, just coming up with the right system to make sure that we don't leave anybody out. I thought about maybe putting it on the website and leaving community members to go in there and vote on their own. But we don't want businesses buying votes. We don't want businesses doing anything outside of the norm to get these votes across.
Yeah, I agree. If you could bring us some kind of, that we can go by, just
because I think it's moving forward, you've got to be very careful, that we're all encompassing of the process and who we're looking for and what we're trying to do, and even some public announcements about hometown heroes in Manor. It's coming, and then we can kind of vet it out about talking to other people. You guys can talk to community members about what do you think about this. And we did one in May, and we're looking at doing it from every month moving forward. What do you think about that? And see if we kind of get some insight. So I think we can come back before June and work it out and give you some good steps forward.
And as unbiased as humanly possible.
Right. We
gotta be accountable to the community.
We don't want so much competition of people jumping in trying to know what it is. We'll table this for possibly in June. All right. With that, the board will now adjourn to executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act: 55074, 551071, and 551072.
You gonna sit up here?
You can, I think you can get rid of that camera.
I know, right?
Okay, we will now reconvene in open session at,
9 o'clock.
reconvene in open session at, okay. So the next item on the agenda is going to be hearing on level 3 grievance of Andrew Yao. Hearing on level 3 grievance of Andrew Yao.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Dr. Avery, members of the board.
Hold on one moment.
Dr. Avery, members of the board.
We will now begin the level 3 grievance appeal of Mr. Andrew Yao. As a reminder, a recording is being made of this appeal. At this time, I will ask each individual in the room to please identify themselves for the record. I will start. Monique Celadon, Vice President, Manor ISD School Board. Monique Celadon, Vice President, Manor ISD.
Christine Badillo, Wash Bay. Ana Cortez, Manor ISD School Board.
Johnny Velasco, Board Secretary.
Manor ISD School Board.
Tamika Thomas, Board of Trustee. Board Trustee. Tamika Thomas.
Sam Ripa, Manor ISD trustee. Sam Ripa, Manor ISD. Pretty close.
Mr. Yao and/or his representative will make a presentation first. Following that presentation, the administration, represented by Dr. Dan Vera, will explain its position. I ask that all parties please limit your presentations to 15 minutes each. Is this agreed?
Yes, ma'am. May I reserve some time for rebuttal? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Following the presentations, each side will be allowed an additional 3 minutes for rebuttal or closing remarks. I will then ask the board members if there are any questions to clarify any of these issues. After considering the appeal, the board will excuse the parties and deliberate into closed session. When deliberations have concluded, the board will reconvene in open session and take action, if any, on the grievance. Are there any questions regarding the conduct of this hearing?
Two questions. First, may I reserve some of my 15 minutes to be added to my rebuttal time? Would be the first.
Yes, if you do not
Okay.
take them.
I'd like to reserve 5 minutes. So I'll only use 10 minutes in my initial comment. So I'd like to reserve 5, so I'll have a total of 8. If that's
That will be
possible.
fine.
Okay. The last thing, Madam President, is Mr. Yao has requested that this particular grievance be heard in public, and since it's being heard in public, you cannot deliberate in private. You can only go and consult with your lawyer if you have some legal questions. But the deliberations and discussions must be done here out front. They are not to be done in private. They are not to be done in private. Mr. Yao would prefer that the board deliberate in public. Mr. Yao would prefer that the board deliberate.
Okay. Mr. Yao, you may now make your presentation, and we will deliberate in public.
Thank you. Madam President, I understand your role, but I'm calling you for tonight.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John McCormick. I'm an attorney, and I have the privilege of representing Mr. Yao. Members of the board, good evening. Thank you for your time. This is a very simple grievance, and it shouldn't take long for you to deliberate to decide the correct answer. This is not a grievance about performance. This is a grievance about what's the right thing to do. Mr. Yao is, and here's the key, a math resource inclusion teacher at Manor Senior High School. That's important. At the beginning of the year, Mr. Yao sent a letter or sent an email to 3 persons in the district, 3 administrators, Ms. Lupe Medina, Mr. Ron Morrison, and Mr. Daniel Veda. And his inquiry was, will the district be paying out math stipends for this 2018-19 school year? He received a response that, yes, those stipends would be paid out in $500 increments, half in December and half in May. Now, when you look at the plan, the compensation plan, what was provided, and we understand that the board has delegated the authority to come up with incentives to the superintendent. The board or the administration has decided to do is grant $1,000 stipend to secondary math teachers only. And this is key. Secondary math teachers only. Mr. Yao is a math teacher. That's all he does. All day, every day. He's an inclusion, he's a resource teacher, and he's a math teacher. So he wrote and asked, will the stipends be paid? They said yes. December rolls around, he doesn't get one. And he writes again and says there was no stipend given. And what they wrote him back and told him was, well, and I'm going to just read a quote from Ms. Medina's email. After reviewing your assignment, I noticed you are an inclusion resource teacher. The math stipend at this time is not given to inclusion resource teachers. That is the reason you did not receive the math stipend. Here's the problem with that, members of the board. Mr. Yao is a math teacher. There are no policies, no practices, no procedures written, and this is important for you to consider, that says that he should not be considered. So, he did what any other employee has the right to do. He challenged it. And what you'll discover when the administration talks to you, which is very disappointing, is you'll discover that there is no written criteria for how to disseminate this stipend. What you'll hear is there are some verbal practices. Problem is, those practices are not consistent with what you have in writing. In fact, the only written process, unless the administration can come up here and tell you something differently tonight, which they did not provide to us, so we can only assume that it is not there, is that there really is nothing in writing other than the level 1 and the level 2 response. And oh, by the way, Mr. Yao only found out that in essence, that particular stipend is only given to teachers of record for math if you teach a majority of the day. What they said about him was, well, we checked and you only have 2 classes where you're the teacher of record for math. And so you don't qualify. Here's the interesting thing. Mr. Yao, being a bright man, said, so is there any criteria that the district has that says inclusion teachers should specifically be excluded from receiving this stipend? The administration will tell you, and they will admit to you, no. There is no language in a policy, no written practice that says inclusion math teachers or inclusion teachers should not be considered. So here's the issue. The question is very simple. Does Mr. Yao teach math in a secondary campus? The answer is yes. He teaches special education math. But he still teaches math. That's what he teaches. So the question is, should he be entitled to the stipend? By what's written, not what was provided in the level 2 response, he should clearly get it. What you have, members of the board, is you have what lawyers call arbitrary, capricious, and unlawful treatment. Because what you have is you have a decision that has been internally made that will say, these teachers get it, these teachers don't. Fine. What's the criteria? Do you have it in writing? well, we really don't have anything in writing. And when Mr. Vedder was pressed on that, in his response was, well, we could not think of, and I'm paraphrasing here, we could not come up with a laundry list of exclusions and inclusions to decide who gets it and who doesn't. I submit to you, that's a very weak response. This man teaches math all day, every day. Now, I heard earlier that you are concerned about having a climate and trying to retain teachers to come to your district and teach. Here's someone who's willing to do that. And on paper, what he was told was, yes, we pay that stipend. But then when it comes time to pay it, saying, well, the administration is saying, well, you need to read the fine print. Problem with that, members of the board, is there is no fine print. Your administration has no established written practice that can be disseminated to any of your employees about how this stipend is being disseminated or distributed. Mr. Yao meets the criteria. If you look at the master schedule, he's listed as a math special education teacher. There's nothing, and I challenge the administration to come and tell you, there's nothing that indicates he's doing anything otherwise. This business about being the teacher of record is a red herring. The issue is, what does he do all day? He teaches math. And he teaches it on a secondary campus in your district. And you have decided to pay math teachers who teach math on the secondary campus a $1,000 stipend. I want you to listen carefully to the administration's response, because I don't think you'll hear they have anything in writing to justify what they're doing. I'll reserve the remainder of my time.
Dan?
Thank you, board members, Superintendent Avery, Vice President Celadon. This grievance has been heard on two separate occasions. On February the 19th of 2019, a level 1 grievance with the very same arguments was made to a district administrator, and that administrator found that these arguments were not consistent with the application of our compensation plan. It was heard again on March the 28th at a level 2 grievance hearing, where again, a second administrator heard these arguments and found that although this speech is eloquent, it does not fit what the district's plan is for its compensation plan. It is administration's duty to understand, interpret, and apply the district's compensation plan with equity and consistency, which is exactly what we have done. This $1,000 stipend that Mr. Yao is requesting is indeed a stipend that's offered to secondary math teachers. It's offered to secondary math teachers who have a caseload of students and they're teaching secondary math. Special education is a different animal. Special education, they support the teacher of record in the classroom. If that teacher is supporting the teacher who's responsible for the lesson plans, who's responsible for the delivery of instruction, who's responsible for the grades in that classroom, that is the teacher that gets the stipend. Mr. Yao teaches 2 sections of resource. The remainder of his day, just as he said, he is not the teacher of record. The remainder of his day, 6 of the 8 classes he teaches, he supports a certified secondary math teacher. The email that they refer to, that they sent to myself, Mr. Morrison, and Ms. Medina. Mrs. Medina responded to the email. All 3 administrators do not respond to the same email. Ms. Medina responded to the email, and as is such the practice, Ms. Medina receives many questions about how stipends are distributed or dispersed over the course of the year. Some of our stipends are distributed monthly. Some of our stipends are distributed twice a year. Mrs. Medina answered the general question of when are, and I wanted to read the actual, should we know, the actual wording in his email is not specific at all.
The actual wording in the email that Mr. Yao sent to Mrs. Medina was, when do Manor Senior High School, Manor High School teachers receive their stipends? He didn't say, when will I receive my stipend, or am I due a stipend? He simply said, when do these stipends get distributed? Ms. Medina answered the question. For this particular math secondary stipend, it's distributed twice a year, once in the fall, once in the spring. So there was no implication that he's receiving it, nor did he ask about himself receiving the stipend. Well, he said, well, by virtue of my title, she should have known I was asking the question for myself. Because I'm a math teacher, I'm an inclusion math teacher, she should have been able to look at the bottom of my email, see my picture, see my name, and see math inclusion teacher at the bottom, and know that he's asking about me, or that I'm asking about myself. That was not the case. It's a little bit of a stretch to ask an employee to go down and read your title and know that you're trying to say that this applies to you, this question applies to you. It was a general question that we get many, many times throughout the year of when are stipends distributed. We have applied the stipend consistently for all employees. If you are the teacher of record and responsible for grades, responsible for attendance, responsible for the instruction of the classroom and the lesson plans for more than 4 periods or more, you receive the math stipend. We have many teachers who do not receive the math stipend. This is the only one who teaches 2 sections and is asking for this stipend. We try to explain to him that this is not qualified for you to receive the stipend. Exclusionary language. We cannot, in our compensation plan, list every single way that you do not qualify for a stipend. We simply say, you qualify for a stipend because you're a secondary math teacher. We don't say, if you teach English, but you're a secondary math teacher, or you're certified in math, you won't get the stipend. We don't say, if you're a certified math teacher and you teach 1 section, you don't get the stipend. We don't say that if you're a certified math teacher and you teach no sections, you don't get the stipend. It's kind of ridiculous to think that every single scenario we would have to list on our compensation plan to say that you don't qualify for a stipend. So the fact that there's no written exclusionary language in our compensation plan would be volumes if we try to exclude every person in every scenario and every example of someone who doesn't qualify for a stipend. You simply list the stipend. According to policy, the superintendent and his staff is responsible for interpreting and implementing those policies that are listed about stipends and compensation with consistency and integrity, and that's exactly what we've done in this case. He did not bring up some of the other evidence that he presented in his prior grievances. I'm going to reserve some of my time to address his other points that I believe he will probably be making after his rebuttal. I'll close at that time.
At this time, each side may offer a brief 3-minute rebuttal, and you can extend that with, the balance of their time.
How much more time do I have?
The balance of their time.
How much more time do
5, 8.
8 minutes.
11 minutes.
11 minutes.
I'll try not to use that much time.
And we'll begin with
Thank
Mr.
you.
Yao.
Members of the board, you know what was interesting about that presentation? Remember, I asked you, said, will they come up with something in writing? We didn't think so. They don't have it. Now, Dr. Vanna makes a point about this grievance being heard on 2 different levels. He's correct about that. But if you listen to the language in the responses, you'll see that they're not on the same page even with that. Let me quote a portion of Mr. Morrison, who was the level 1 officer. And this is very disturbing to me. This is what he says, and I quote, I find that not although, and that's how it's written, explicitly published with either qualifying or disqualifying language, it has been an established practice of the Manor ISD Human Resources Department to provide the math stipend to teachers who are teachers of record for math instruction for a majority of their instructional day. Your current schedule does not demonstrate this capacity. a majority of their instructional day. Remember, I told you, Mr. Yao teaches math all day, every day. That's all he does. Now, let's look at Dr. Veda's response. And this is what he says. In your presentation, you raised the question of consistency. No other teacher in the district who teaches less than 4 sections. Now, that's the first time we've heard 4 sections. Is being awarded the math stipend. Let me just add as a side point, just because it's not being done right to other people doesn't mean you ought to keep doing it that way. All right? Currently, your schedule shows you are the teacher of record for only 2 math sections, while you assist in the inclusion classrooms with a math teacher. Actually, he teaches. That's what you pay him to do. You pay him to be an inclusion teacher. What Dr. Veda is trying to now tell you is that he only teaches for 2 sessions during the day, and he's an educational aide for the rest of the time. That's what he's trying to get you to believe. That's not what his contract says. Contract says he's a classroom teacher. So he teaches all day, every day. You cited 2 math interventionists in your presentation who are receiving the math stipend. These teachers were first identified as math teachers at the beginning of the year. While their assignment has been changed, a mid-year compensation change or adjustment cannot be made within the current year. These changes will be addressed in next year's salary. Quote. Problem is, when you look at the schedule, the master schedule, you will see that he is a math teacher. It doesn't say he's an inclusion teacher, period. It doesn't say that he's a special education teacher, period. It says special education, math. Now, I think Dr. Veda is going dangerously close to saying that you don't treat your teachers who teach special education students the same way you do regular ed. That's in essence what he's saying. Special education is different. How? And members of the board, my question to you is that how you want your community to think you run business? Do you want your community to know that you treat special education teachers differently from regular ed? Because that's exactly what's happening here. Now, I think that Dr. Veda was simply trying to say, well, if you teach other courses other than math, then the stipend doesn't apply. So if you teach math, of course, if you teach English one day, well, you're not considered a math teacher. That's not the case here. I trust that you reviewed all of the documents. And again, I'll point you back to the schedule. What does his own campus call him? They call him a special education math teacher. He's entitled to the stipend. And if you deny him that, then you're doing exactly what the administration is doing, and that is treating him and other teachers like him arbitrarily. You're trying to grow your district. You're trying to find the best and the brightest to come and teach here. I dare say Mr. Yao is one of them. Kind of message you want to send it. And others like it. Thank you for your time. And others like it. Thank you for your time. And please ask them, where is it in writing? All of the things he said to you, where is it in writing? All of the things he said to you. Not the policy, but in practice. Where has it been reduced to writing? I don't think he can produce it for you. Where has it been reduced to writing? I don't think he can produce it for you.
Would the administration care to offer a rebuttal? Dr. Gary? Would the administration care to offer a rebuttal?
Sometimes I wish I had gone into ministerial school because I could speak as eloquently as this gentleman here. However, I will tell you, he keeps asking you, ask him for what's in writing. He keeps dictating to you what he thinks I'm saying, and he keeps putting words and saying, I'm saying this, or Dr. Vera means, or this is Dr. Vera's interpretation. This is not the case, and I really don't appreciate someone speaking for me. I'm speaking for myself. I'm telling you exactly what I think, And please don't allow someone to interpret to you what he thinks, I think, I'm thinking. The case of writing. Again, what I said to you earlier, there is no writing of exclusionary language. You cannot put into policy every situation where a stipend applies or doesn't apply. You simply take what is adopted, and administration implements with integrity and consistency across the board what has been approved, and we do that every year. Every year when the compensation plan changes, administration has the responsibility of taking that compensation plan and implementing it with integrity. There are no other people receiving this stipend. He points out to a couple of employees, and yes, there were some employees at the beginning of the school year, and again, these are the things that were already in the case that I told you he would bring up. There were employees at the beginning of the school year whose position changed. What you have to understand is we are required during a contract year, once a salary is given and stipends are given, we do not change those. You cannot change those legally. You cannot change compensation in the middle of a contract year. That is the reason why there are two people who are receiving this stipend currently, and that is the reason why when he referenced those in his level 2, I explained that those situations would be corrected the following year to be consistent with practice. I'll go ahead and close out administration's perspective on this situation. We gave this gentleman due process. We gave him an opportunity to be heard on 2 separate occasions, and now this is a level 3 opportunity to be heard. We have implemented the policies and procedures that Manor ISD has put in place with our compensation plan and again with our local policies. We've implemented them with integrity and consistency across all employees. We are not discriminating against anyone. We are not discriminating against special education teachers. Again, that's a falsehood. We don't do that. If you are the teacher of record and you are responsible for the instruction in that classroom and you are responsible for the grades and the attendance and you have the majority of your caseload, whether you're the teacher of record, and again, the level 2 further delineated what Mr. Morrison's statement was. It wasn't a change of the statement. It was simply further delineating what Mr. Morrison had already stated. For clarification, the level 2, which is always an attempt at the level 2 to provide more clarification for the person who's bringing the grievance, to provide more understanding, to be able to explain it in a different way how this has taken place. So that's what the purpose of the level 2 was. It was to try to further delineate, further help him understand, further try to make sure that he could understand and wrap his mind around how the administration was implementing this practice, this policy. And that's how we ended up with further delineation of that evidence. Thank you.
Counsel, can we ask questions? Okay.
Having heard from both sides, does any board member have any clarifying questions regarding this appeal?
Clearly I do. What's Ms. Medina's position? What is Ms. Medina's position? Whoever answered the email, what's her position?
Mrs. Medina is the Assistant Director in the Human Resources Office.
So she should know whether someone qualifies or not.
Absolutely.
So the assumption is when you send an email, you're sending it for yourself, correct?
Try to understand the question.
The assumption is when you send an email, you're sending it for yourself, correct?
Understand the question.
When you send an email, if I send an email to you, you assume that I'm talking from the first person. I'm talking about myself, correct? The email that was sent, when she received the email, one of the points to the board was she gave a general answer. Mm-hmm. But it is custom, anytime you send an email, you're sending it from your perspective, correct? When you answer the email, you're answering it based on
yes, based on, she answers the email based on her understanding, her perspective, or her understanding of the question.
But she did have a perspective that it was coming from him.
She knew that it was coming from Mr. Yao, that is correct.
Okay, and then, is Mr. Yao a certified teacher?
Yeah. was
Mr. Yao is a
question.
certified teacher, yes.
Okay. And then, can you read the policy? Because we had a lot of back and forth. Can you just read what's actually written?
There are several policies that are in that packet that the board, that was presented to the board, that are several pages long.
No, I don't want to hear the packet. There is actual, what is the statement about stipend?
Oh, in the compensation plan?
Yes.
It says, well, I don't have it with me, but it says secondary math teachers.
And that's it.
It says secondary math teachers are
Do you
awarded the
have it?
compensation. It's there.
it.
It says secondary math teachers are awarded the compensation.
Sure. That was,
Yes.
No. Go to the compensation. No. Go to the.
I believe that's what he's referring to.
Mhm.
May I approach?
Yeah.
He's got it.
We're not judges.
I know.
He's got it.
We're not.
So is there a sentence that? the
Oh,
child-
yeah, I remember
All it
that.
says is math.
The only thing it says is math. Okay.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And where's the majority in the four written down?
I'm sorry, say
Is
that
there a
again?
majority or four sections written
No,
anywhere?
it's the practice, it's the practice that's in place right now. There is not a written, majority of classes or 4 sections or more. It is simply the practice that's been in place.
Those are my questions.
I have a question for, Mr. Yao. How long have you been employed by the district?
Yes, sir. This is my second year. Last year I taught at Manor High School as the life skills teacher.
As a what?
The life skills teacher at Manor High School last year.
Okay, so this is your first year in this position?
Yes, sir.
This is your first year in this position?
Yes, sir.
Dan, how many other, inclusion teachers do we have in Mr. Yao's situation? Inclusion teachers do we have in Mr. Yao's situation?
Without looking and venturing a very, very rough estimate, I would predict around 9 that are in this same, that do not carry a caseload, a full section of teaching, teacher of record.
But even if they
But again,
don't, because I was an inclusion teacher for many years. So that is not what teacher of record is supposed to mean. Because you still are a certified teacher. And the reason why you bring in 2 certified teachers, the teacher of record is just what's on record of leading. But both of them equally teach, and the reason why is so you can have a smaller teacher-to-student ratio. It's not so a certified teacher can be an aide. If that's how it's working in Manor ISD, then it's a different beast than any other.
And I too was a special ed
Inclusion
teacher as well.
Right.
I went in to support the teacher in the classroom regarding, working with all subjects, math, science, social studies, whatever. So it wasn't intended for it to be that teacher being a paraprofessional, whatever. That is not the intent of inclusion support across this district. So that's not even.
And they're not receiving paraprofessional pay. They are teachers.
Okay,
and they
I
are
just want to make sure, because, if we're giving the illusion that you're coming in as an inclusion teacher to be an aide, that's not true. And if the whole is the section, my question is it math? Is everything that he teaches Dan Vera math?
Everything that he, on his caseload is math.
Okay, I'm just trying to get some clarity, because when you say inclusion, that could be a lot of different subjects, but everything is math. You're just not the teacher of record in every one of them.
I'm the only math teacher for Manor Senior High School, and I don't just help special ed students, I help all students, so I know all the general ed students in there as well. In the summer, we had a PD called Power of Inclusion. I tried to embody that. My math instructional coach, Ms. Garcia, she was really impressed with what I've done over the course of the year, and she said I should be a model for other districts or other classrooms in the district.
I have.
Yes, Mr. Simmons.
So,
May I comment on that real quickly before you move on? So Mr. Yao just said that he supports the regular education students and the special education students in those classrooms. Those were his own words.
Which means he teaches them.
Yeah, I was about to say, you, as a teacher, you support everybody. We're not
teaches
splitting
them.
hairs.
Okay, Mr. Yao, first period, what do you teach?
So that's my inclusion section. I'm with Mr. Bonnie Hashimrad. We call him Baba June, and that's Algebra 1. So it's a big class. About half of that class is actually inclusion. So we run all sorts of co-teaching models. We do parallel teaching. I love team teaching. If Baba June's not there that day, I can solo the class by myself. You know, I have gen ed chops. I taught gen ed for 2-3 years.
And second period?
Second period, that's my resource class. I teach math, algebra 2 to my resource students.
How many students?
For that class, that's a small class. We had attrition, but right now it's about 5-6 students.
Okay. And third?
Third period, that's a split class. I have 2 inclusion classes that I split my period between. So about 45 minutes each.
What class is that?
So algebra 2 and geometry.
Okay. And
2 full classes.
And your next class?
So that's a fourth period. That's algebra 2 with it's a vacant position, so there's a sub now. I've actually been doing a lot of support there.
Okay, next period?
Next period, what are we on? Fifth period. Okay, switching between A day, B day here. All right, B day. That's Miss. All right, B day. That's Miss. That's with Miss Sanchez, geometry. The whole period.
Okay, and that's the end of your day.
And then there's still more because we have 8 periods at Manor Senior High School.
Okay, so.
And then now it's 6. So that's another. That's Mr. Bryant. The whole period math models.
Okay.
That's Mr. Bryant. Okay. And 7th is another resource class. It's a big class. I have about 10, 11 students in that class. Resource.
Okay.
Math resource. And 8th is my conference period. Every teacher gets a conference.
And you're
all day, every day.
Well, my problem.
Mostly alone or with the teacher in the classroom?
2 periods alone.
2 periods alone. The rest you have an overseeing teacher with you?
I would say 50%
an overseeing
responsibility.
Teacher.
Yeah, 'cause
you're the support. Okay. Inclusion is support.
Inclusion is not support. It is inclusion teachers that are certified inclusion teachers are meant to have a smaller student-to-teacher ratio. They are equally co-teaching a class. The teacher of record is just that, a teacher of record. But that doesn't, and my thought with this is a very poorly written policy. And if you want it to be where teachers are going to get the stipend based on 4 teachers of record, then you don't have to write an exclusion. You just have to write a clear statement that says you have to be the teacher of record for 4 periods. But as soon as he wrote Human Resources and asked, what do you think? And Resources wrote him back and said yes, it was up to Human Resources to figure out who they were talking to. And Human Resources certainly can pull his record and say, hey, I'm looking at your record, you're a math teacher. However, if that was even the general policy and it wasn't written, then you write back and say, well, hey, but you have 4 periods that you need to do this for, even if it's not, if that's just your general practice.
If the question had been specific to Mr. Yao, that would have been the answer. The question was a general question that we receive several times a year.
But according to you, that is not the case. What you're saying is, for every person who walks through the store, it needs to be 4 periods in order for you to pay it. So the general answer to me, anytime someone asks you, should be, yes, math teachers get paid for a stipend on a secondary campus. However, you will need to fulfill 4 periods where you're the teacher of record.
The question was only, when is the disbursement for stipend? It wasn't asking what qualifies me. It was a simple question of when are the stipends dispersed, as opposed to once a month or twice a year. We get the question all the time.
Did you need us to do something?
May I just?
So the question hasn't been answered, and we might. Does anybody else have questions before we move on to deliberation? Go ahead.
I just was going to say, this process. How is anyone supposed to know it? It's not in writing. How is anyone, and who's to say it's accurate? Because there's nothing in writing about any of that. The only thing you have is secondary math teacher, $1,000. Secondary, math teacher, $1,000.
Any further questions? So we're going to deliberate here. And then move to closed session. And then move to closed session.
Well, what is the recommendation, and, I know we got all the documents that was submitted, so.
So the board overall doesn't have a recommendation, and
From our legal counsel.
we heard our,
Oh, okay. Okay, 'cause okay.
Yeah, because my opinion is, at the end of the day, it's about what's in writing, not about what's in practice. And if we want to put something in practice, then we need to put it in writing.
And I think that's a legal question that we can ask our attorney regarding practices that we've taken part in over the years
Policies
as a
and
district. I think that's a legal question that I think she needs to advise us on as well. I think that's a legal question that I think.
at what point do we move forward and vote on that?
What we can do then is, conclude the open session portion of this grievance, and then we can move on to the next grievance.
Madam Chair, I'm just, so that I'm clear, so you guys are gonna retire back to speak with to consult with your
For
attorney
legal.
only, right?
Legal. I think we had agreed on that in the very beginning, correct?
No, you have a right to talk to your lawyers. I'm not
Okay,
trying to
okay.
tell you not to. I just wanna make sure that that's all that's happening.
Right, absolutely.
Do you all wanna do that now, or do you wanna hear the other grievance in closed session and then go back?
No, I mean, is this
Go
not
ahead
a
and
simple
finish,
answer? Can
close
you just
this
put
one
yes
out.
or no? I mean, what's the legal question that we can't
It's not a
get?
simple answer, I wouldn't say.
Right,
Question that we
It's not a simple answer,
right.
Okay, so you wanna adjourn
Okay,
into closed
so
session?
let's adjourn into closed session at
9:41 p.m.
pursuant to 551071. Pursuant to 551071. Texas Government Code, sorry.
I know, it's so good.
We are reconvening in open session at
9:54 p.m.
in open session at 9:54 p.m. I am calling for a further deliberation from any board members
Well,
that have any further questions.
I had some other questions, for Mr. Yao, if I could. When you initially took the position, did it ever occur to you to look into the salary, I guess the salary, but any stipends that you might be entitled to at that time and inquire about that?
And I think I can answer that, and then that was why he did it early on in the process, back in September. And so he thought, because looking at what was in writing, that he would receive it. When he didn't receive it in his December check, because that's the first time that was the first installment. When he didn't, he inquired again. And in fact, that time, and it's in your packet, what you'll see is he said that my stipend is missing. I didn't get paid for it. And that's when they came back and said, well, I see that you're an inclusion teacher.
Okay, so initially when you first accepted the position in August?
Actually, Dr. Sevi hired me at the beginning of last year, or end of last year, for this position this year, like based on
The end of last year?
Yeah, last year. And actually, there's more to this. At the beginning of this school year, the math stipend was actually missing entirely. It was added on later in September or November, I'm not sure when. It was actually missing and added on later to that live compensation plan that I believe Dr. Vera wrote. And what's more is last year I was hired, my first year in Manor, I was hired as an inclusion teacher, and I got hit with the bait and switch where I got put in life skills. And I did that position for a year. It's a high attrition, position. Many teachers don't last a year, and I lasted the whole year. While being understaffed, I understand that this year it's now split into two classrooms with one teacher each and 2 aides each. It was just me, and at times it was just me with all the kids, 13, 14 students, students with tube feedings, changing diapers, behavior kids together with medically fragile kids, and many times it wasn't safe.
I'm sorry, Board President, but any information that's not already currently in the packet received by the board, any new information, is not supposed to be brought before this committee.
Okay.
Oh, Mr.
Well, and it really doesn't have any, okay, go ahead.
You're free to accept any information you want.
Well, my thing is, it really has, for me, no bearing on this case. The case to me is a very simple case. We read what's on the paper. What's on the paper is that we have secondary math. And if we want it to be something else, and it's a very simple fix of saying 4 period. And that's not a booklet of exclusion. That's one sentence that can weed people in or weed people out. So, can I make a motion? Or you all
Mr. Yo,
Are
I think Ms. Cortez had a question. Did you?
My next question was, and I was thinking, I did see the documents. I did see, and I understand both sides. I understand that when he emailed that, it wasn't broad enough as well. But I'm still trying to consider, what
Mr. Yo, were you promised a time of hire this stipend?
Again, with all due respect, Madam Chair, that's irrelevant. It's what's in the it's what's written. And what's written is math, secondary, $1,000.
So we will go to taking a motion.
President.
Okay, go ahead.
So, again, as I've stated before, not everything can be in writing in a compensation plan. It just isn't done. But I want to make sure that the board understands I am by no means lessening the capacity of a special education teacher. In this particular situation, I'm only talking about the level of responsibility for that teacher in that room. He is not responsible for PLCs. He is not responsible for lesson plans. He is not responsible for tutoring, and he does no grade.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
None of that is in writing.
okay, I understand. So, we are ready to make a motion. I do have a concern that I understand you, Dr. Vera, not everything is in writing. It's impossible to have everything in writing. However, my concern, and I'm just going to say this, is that when he wrote the email to, who was it? Ms. Medina. She did reply and say that he was going to get it. And so, Mr. Yo, is there any medium that we can meet you at? Is there something that we can negotiate?
Well, I would, if I may, Madam Chair, if there's something, I'll be happy to visit with Ms. Padillo about that. Let me have an opportunity to visit with my client about
Okay.
if we need to do that.
That's, if it's okay with the rest of the board.
I mean, my thought is it's not affecting anybody else but this particular case, because everybody else is outside of their window of complaint. So anything that we come to agreement on is going to be solely for you, because
Right,
you're the only one,
absolutely.
you're the only complainant that's within their window. And my thing is, at the end of the day, we go back to what we have in writing, and what could be in writing could be rectified in one sentence.
And
the majority of the day, and we have to go, I understand your position, so, well, we don't have to rehash that position, we just need to figure out
if you'd like to make a motion, Ms. Thomas, we can go ahead and move forward with that
well,
rather than
there's, you know,
negotiate.
5 other people on the dais, so we need to make some.
I mean, that's what,
One last thing, Mr. Yao does want you to know that he does take attendance. He has access to attendance and grades.
okay, all right. I think, you know, we have heard both sides. Like Ms. Cortez said, we totally understand. Again, for me, I'm going to say that not everything is in writing, but that email concerns me. That's where I stand as far as that, because he was told that he'd get the stipend. So again, if we want to go for a motion now, or if the majority of the board wants to.
I'd like to ask him, would you accept half of the
Right.
Again,
so that's what I was asking, and so maybe they could talk, we could take a break so you guys could talk. So maybe they could talk, we could take a break so you guys.
5-minute break?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
5-minute break.
10:02.
All right, thank you. We're taking a break. Yeah, legally, how are we taking a break?
A recess?
Recess, yes, recess.
The board will take a recess at this time at 5 minutes.
Okay?
Okay.
Yes. And go again.
Yeah, okay. Well, that must have.
Session at, and the board will adjourn into executive session at, and the board will adjourn into executive to consult with counsel, pursuant to following Texas Open Meeting Act 5517071. Open Meeting Act 5517071. We will now
10 p.m.
proceed into open session at.
Okay,
Do I have a motion
I make a
for
motion
this grievance?
for our council to negotiate with Mr. Yao's counsel as discussed in closed session.
I second it.
Discussed in closed session.
All those in favor?
I second it.
Motion passes 5-0. Motion passes 5-0.
Made a motion for our council to negotiate with their council.
Yeah.
We're gonna reconvene into closed session. I'm gonna dismiss everybody. Okay. We are now going to, next item on the agenda, I'm sorry. Next item is a level 3 grievance for Michael Bonilla. We are now going to adjourn into closed session under the Texas Government Code, Section 551074, and we'll begin the level 3 grievance hearing As a reminder, a recording is being made of this. Oh, okay, so can we have everyone dismissed from, this room, please? At this time, we're gonna hear the grievance in closed session.
Deliberate here.
Yes.
Closed session, so no one can be in, so we're gonna have to.